You
We
hear a
we we
tap? Oh, we're live now. Okay, good.
we're live right now. Should be good. I'm just checking the
Good.
audio here. Yeah, there's that microphone. Yeah, we are good to go here.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Michael,
put my
it's
earphones up to the microphone
yeah.
because sometimes it can actually go through there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think
You gotta
my
love
lower
all the
ears.
technical stuff. There's always I feel like there's always something you have to contend with. But well, hey, I appreciate you making the time here, and I'll do an intro here because I'll upload this later on Spotify. So joining us today is returning guest Michael Yon. Gosh, I could call you a truth seeker, veteran, combat, a correspondent, a Renaissance man, fill in the blank. It's always good to have you on and to hear your thoughts. I appreciate you making the time today.
Yeah, we were just talking about babies, because, well, Masako, my wife, is pregnant 33 weeks and now 3 days. I mean, and it's incredibly exciting. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's very exciting. And then we just had another addition to the family yesterday. Another baby will be our nephew, niece, and then other babies back in America are being born already this year, and more coming next year. I mean, it's like when it makes the whole family feel buoyant. You know what I mean? Like everybody, it makes everybody feel very happy. Actually, like deep happy is not the right word. It's deeper than that. And
Mm-hmm.
and Misako and I noticed that when we're here in Japan, they say Japanese don't make babies, but we see massive amounts of babies around here, and like a huge amount. Like the mother's like pushing two in the stroller and got one, either walking beside her or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of people here with three young children that are so young that all three are either stroller or semi stroller age, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and you notice that the families who have babies seem to be a lot happier. Look at the looks on young mothers' faces too. They're just like, for instance, the photos we got yesterday from we have a new baby added to the family just 18 hours ago. Mama's holding it, super happy. I mean, not just happy; it's beyond happy.
There, there, there,
Anyway, communities don't feel alive without children around. Have you noticed that? Like a community without children feels like, I don't know, it's just sterile. It doesn't feel, I don't know.
well,
It doesn't, they don't feel right.
I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine that when you have kids, and of course I've been around like little kids, of course, but it adds life to what otherwise may be less than lively, if you will. Keeps
Oh
things
yeah,
fresh. So
yeah.
well, okay, congratulations on having the kid here. And but hey, I wanted to ask you real quick here questions I've received from audience members. This one is from Tracy, and I want to give out a shout out to Tracy for being a member of the channel. So thank you, Tracy. I just want to acknowledge you. And she asked that she'd really like to know your opinion on the real reason there are such an insane amount of these data centers going up in every state. She also writes, there are over 260 in Ohio alone. I don't believe that it's solely for data, not even for Orwellian surveillance. China does not have nearly the centers that we do, and they've definitely mastered surveillance. So I wanted to have you. I wanted her to. I mean, excuse me. I wanted to share that question that she had for you early on.
I don't know all the insides and outsides of what's going on, but it's clear there's a genocide unfolding. That's obvious, and people are walking into it. I mean, we're still having children, so we're not walking into it. But I mean, but at the same time, well, not that having children does not mean you're walking into it. The point is that there's a genocide coming, and it's coming in many forms. They're coming out with new jabs right now, as an example, and no doubt people will line up and take them. The borders are still open. I know Trump says that they're not open, but he's a liar, and that's what he does, is lie. That's why he's in that position, is because he was hired and put into that position, because he lies in a way that can persuade huge numbers. Not everybody, but so I mean, he's a liar, and they're pushing another jab, and Fauci's not behind it, and so there's all these different components. One of them is data, obviously. One of them is just knowing everything about us, and to the ability, the ability to kill people with that data is enormous, especially with a weaponized supply chain, where let's say you're forced to go to the doctor for some reason. Like here, in Japan, they're like basically you wouldn't believe how many things require a doctor's note, like a teacher's note. You know what I'm saying? But just imagine, so the doctor's note includes getting some medicine, just like it can in the United States. You go to the VA or whatever, and there's your QR code. You go get boom, you're dead, right? Or it makes you more sick, and by intention. But they can also target you specifically with these weaponized supply chains. Look what the Zionist, genocidal Zionists. Look what they're celebrating genocide. They celebrate. They hoop and holler. I mean, they jump up and down. And when they weaponize the supply chain with the pagers and the phones, blowing up whoever they blew up. They say they blew up terrorists, right? With Hezbollah, they said it was Hezbollah terrorists, but we don't know who they blew up. And they kill people indiscriminately. You know what I mean? They don't hesitate to lie and tell a bigger lie on top of that. And if you don't believe it, they'll kill you. I mean, these are straight up hardcore terrorists. I mean, as terrorist as it gets. And so what will they do with this data? Kill people like us, for sure. Because they don't like us. And they will kill people for enjoyment. They clearly do. The things that you see in the middle, none of these things are unrelated. Like the food supply issues that are growing, energy supply issues that are growing, the wars that are growing, it's all the same thing. There is no light between the people doing this and their agendas, which are to decrease the population on planet Earth of humans and rule over the remnant. And they love slaves with which, the chosen ones can do anything that they want. Now, the chosen ones are fighting the Chinese, who also think they're chosen ones, the Chinese Communist Party in particular. So they're going heads up, right? So the Chinese got their own, surveillance state. I've been all over China. I've written 3 books on Chinese information war, actually. Unfortunately, they're only published in Japan because they were written for a Japanese audience. But those two chosen groups are frenemies destroying us. And at the same time, they hate each other, and they know and they're both sophisticated enough in their evil to, they're not fooled by the other one, right? They study each other in great detail, and they attack each other and in all the ways that they attack us, except we're more like turtles on a log. Most of America, not all of us. I mean, a lot of us are completely awake to it. Look at, you had Joseph Christoff on. I watched the whole show and I watched parts of it twice. He talks about this constantly. And mind control, Planet Mind Control is the name of his. Yeah. That video that came out, that was your last one, right? I just watched it.
Yeah, it was one of the more recent ones that I released, and I really enjoyed that one. I mean, it's amazing the things that they do. Just the play on words, the programming that is initiated. I'm really looking forward to his next documentary, which is Black Magic Nation. So that'll be.
Oh, I gotta watch this Black Magic. That Black Magic is actually, for years I've had it programmed into my Google Net alerts. Mm-hmm. I watch Black Magic stuff. I pay very close attention to that because of the implications that it has for so many things. And not to go into that, because that's a huge subject.
Sure.
And we should save it for later. No, yesterday when I was messaging you, yesterday that I was like, hey, we should get on with you and Jason and talk about some of the things that I'm hearing yesterday here in Japan. Like I made video of hours long conversation with permission. I made the video I haven't sent it to you yet because it's our meeting went way into the night and we went to sleep and I woke up and I'm on with you now. So I literally woke up, came right on, freshened up my face, and here I am. But this midwife that we were speaking with yesterday, and this is reminded me so much of your recent interview with Jason Christoff. What they're doing here in Japan to Japanese mothers is unbelievable. They're pushing, my wife is now 33 weeks plus pregnant. So we're seeing this now firsthand, how they're trying to force you into that medical industrial. It's farming. It's all it is farming, right? It's human farming. And they try to force you into that so they can steal the umbilical cord, steal the placental blood, all that stuff, right? And all the things that are in there that they can sell. But also, even before that, like the midwife, why does she became a midwife, she said, because we call her Special Forces midwife. We've been calling her that for a while because of the way she operates. But she's with her first babies, they tried to force her into the hospital, which she went. She was only 25 at the time, and because she was still naive to the game, and she said that they tried to the hospital. She went in at the 35th week, I think, and they're like, you need to check into the hospital. There was nothing wrong with her. She's perfectly healthy, but you can see her energy level is very high. It still is. Now she's got 3 children. And she's, very, very smart and very energetic. And she said when she was in the hospital, the doctors were saying your energy's too high, like you're too. There's a Japanese word for it, I've forgotten, but basically it means you're sparky, right? And so they gave her an IV and de-sparked her, right? And she was like, she took that out. She said she was in, it's a public hospital, so there were 6 other mothers in the shared room. And they wanted the mothers to stay in their beds at all times. So these are expectant mothers, right? That, are going to have baby in the next month or so. And, but they're in the hospital way early. And when one of the mothers had to go to the bathroom, the doctor's like, you'll have to pee in the bed, right? Things like that. They didn't even want you to get out of the bed at all. But if you were here in that, well, I made video of it. I'll send it to you and Jason. You got to watch it. Mm-hmm. And that was with her permission. I told her I was actually going to send it to you and Jason. Not that she knows who you are yet, but she will. And because I'm going to send her the video from yesterday. But the video that you and Jason were on. But I told her, I said, what they were doing was trying obviously to break you. They were trying to make you submit, right? They were using coercion, all sorts of coercion and drugs, right? And she was also in Canada, and she said Canada, she was telling me, is extremely free on birth and extremely free medically. And I said, it's a wonder on planet Earth when somebody says Canada is very free. When you're saying Canada is very free compared to Japan, that's an indictment, because Canada ain't free. You know what I mean? Canada is far from free. And as Jason will tell you, I'm sure you already know, but I went up, Misako and I went up to Canada researching this stuff. It's far from free. But by comparison to Japan, it's extremely free. And the coercions that are used here for the human farming are intense. Anyway, I'll send you the video. And with her permission, maybe we can use some clips of it when you've got Jason on, because you'll see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I look at much of what goes on is basically a human harvest. It's a human harvest, and
that's what they're doing with the babies.
Yeah,
with the babies, when they're cutting the placenta. I mean, the umbilical cord while it's still pumping, right? And they're like, there's no proof. One lady in the hospital told us recently, because you have to go to a hospital to use a midwife here, right? So we're like, I don't like going into hospitals. I mean, to me, they're creepy. It's like going in. It's like an extension of it's the doormat of the cemetery, right? Mm-hmm. And the obstetrician we spoke with on June 2nd, 2026. I won't forget that day. We call her the June 2nd obstetrician, Misako and I. She was still pushing the death jab. She's still pushing the COVID jab on June 2nd, 2026. I'm like, we got to get out of here. This is creepy. The only thing missing here is a chainsaw and an obstetrician going, C-section, death jab, vaccine. I mean, completely insane. And I mean, I'm looking at her going, whoa, she's still pushing the death. Our business is done. We left the hospital. And actually, when we left, because you still have to pay for their services that are mandatory, right? We're not taking any needles or anything like that. So when we went to pay, the front desk at the hospital was like, they expect a card. The government's paying for it for you, and
Mhm.
and we were going to pay in cash, and they didn't even know how to accept that we're not going to. When the government when another thing that the midwife told us yesterday is that people sometimes now report when they see a pregnant woman. They'll actually call the city hall or whatever and say, "Hey, I see a pregnant woman," making sure that she's in the system. They have actually neighbors that'll tell that, because it's that, what's that movie, where the couple's trying to have a baby in the future and they have to keep their pregnancy secret. I mean, we're
Hmm.
down to that. We're down to, it's a movie Misako and I watched a few years ago. It's called like Population Zero Growth or something, Zero Growth, something like that. And and I said to Misako yesterday, that's like, because the midwife was telling us yesterday that sometimes now actually people report when they see a pregnant woman to make sure the baby's in the system, and the Child Protective Services, misnamed as much as vaccine, right? Like policing action versus Vietnam War. You know what I mean? It's like unbelievable. And the Child Protective Services literally coerce people, take their children, forced. She told us yesterday, the midwife told us about Child Protective Services coming to one house in Japan and forcing the family to take the K2, whatever it's syrup, right? Right, and do it right in front of them. And they legally, apparently they can't actually force you, but they coerce people. And we've seen the types of, Masako and I happen to be both individually and collectively very resistant to coercion, right? We have that allergic reaction to it. She has it before we knew, and I had it before we knew each other. And now together, it's even, one, two anti-coercion people together are like, on rocket fuel. I mean, when we see it, we laugh at them. I mean, like the doctor, like the obstetrician telling us that the ultrasound has been proven safe. We're like, okay. That was when I said, you mean like the vaccine? I said vaccine because she wouldn't understand death jab.
Well,
So and she's like, and then she starts telling us about how safe the fake vaccine is.
well,
That's so good.
yeah, I hear you. There was a guy here where I'm at. Apparently, his child was, I don't know how old the child was. I mean, it was obviously pretty young. I imagine like under 2 would be my guess. And the child seemed to be totally normal, eye contact, everything. And then they went and got vaccines or what have you. And then after that, nothing was the same. Now the child is clearly autistic and is to such an extent that it is unable to ever take care of itself, apparently. And he, understandably, along with his wife, are livid with their child being vaccine injured. And so that was something I had heard recently. So yeah, I don't trust any of the sons of bitches.
They literally are murdering families. And the reaction, the immune reaction to most people is just, oh well, they destroyed my child, poor me. They don't do
Mm-hmm.
anything. There's no immune reaction that would make medical staff go, you know what, we shouldn't do that stuff. There's no immune reaction that makes people go, I'm not going to push this stuff, because there could be actual street level reaction to this, which
Mm-hmm.
could be consequential, right? And so that's why they continue to get away with it, right? Because very few people actually stand up and say that'll be enough of that and put an end to it. That would change everything. That's a proper immune response. Now the immune response is call the government,
Mm-hmm.
outsource everything, and the government's the one that's doing it,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. It
I mean,
well, I'll just give a shout out here just to add real quick. I just picked this up. Actually, it just was it was at my front door because I had it delivered. It was this is by Makia Freeman. I don't know if you're familiar with Makia. This ties in with what you're saying, by the way, Michael. So,
mhm.
and this one is called and I know it's some people tuning in. They're like, Christian, fill in the blank. This is called the International Satanic Network Expose, and he talks about these. He talks about I'm pretty sure he talks on vaccines, mind control, what they do to the kids, the powers that be, everything. And this is a small little book, and I encourage people to check it out. But yeah, it's everybody at the very top who they're the real criminals.
Right. Yeah, and it's quite serious, and it's dumbed down entire pot. That's why, I've been assembling a small library for Baby Bear. That's our not
Hmm.
yet on the ground baby, but the books that I'm buying are from the 1800s. You know, as much as I can get pre 1890. I mean,
Hmm.
because the older the books, the better. Because the dumbing down. We were talking yesterday with the midwife here, as I've spoken with many Japanese actually about this. They see where Japan started getting dumbed down by the United States in what's called GHQ after, and actually pre World War II, but especially after World War II. And it's very obvious, actually. If you studied it here, it's extremely obvious. It is not a conspiracy theory. It's like openly United States was doing that. We burned thousands of their book titles. I mean, we collected them and disappeared them, right? United States openly did that. Like, and so, and did many, many other things. But one thing I mentioned yesterday, I said it wasn't stepping back from that. It wasn't really just the United States doing it to Japan, because it has been happening to the United States at least since the 1800s. Minimum, this has been happening in the United States hardcore since at least the 1800s. One is um, highly drugged United States in the 1800s, highly drugged. I mean, like unbelievable. I could talk about this. I've got so much material on this, including these oh, postcards. They're hard to get out, but I'll show you. We should come on some other time and I'll show you some of this stuff from the 1800s. I mean, feeding opium to children and alcohol to children. I mean, like babies to keep them quiet, toothing stuff, Miss
Hmm.
Winslow syrup and all this stuff. Vin Mariani,
I,
wine, cocaine wine,
I,
and so yeah,
oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and even the Pope was pushing that crap. The Pope was doped up on cocaine wine, which is where Coca-Cola came from. It wasn't cocaine wine, of course, but it has uh, caffeine and cocaine. That's Coca-Cola. I've
Hmm.
actually got some of those coconuts here. They're you can buy them in a store. The coconuts that not they're not coconuts, but they're from Africa actually,
Hmm.
and they spelled with a K. Cola nuts. They're called cola nuts. The coca is cocaine and cola is K. Spelled with a K, but they changed it to a C because it looks cooler on the bottles.
Hmm.
And but the dumbing down of America was methodical, starting in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But there was still a lot of Americans ascendant. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, there were a lot of Americans. It took a long time to sort of reach a critical mass where being dumbed down. Uh, what do the Greeks call it? Amathia, or what was the Greek word for that? So where it becomes cool to be stupid. I actually remember that when I was in high school. Now, the high school that I went to was still serious about, you should study hard and that sort of thing. But I remember back then, there was a certain class of people that thought it was cool to be stupid. And I had a sort of an allergic reaction to those people. But it was clear. And I noticed that. So I noticed that at least by the time I was a teenager. So it's been, I mean, in my own observation, it's been going along at least since then. But you look at some of these movies, like where the dope head is the cool guy. You're right. In the movie, the dope head's the cool guy, and the guys doing all this crap are the and this intentional dumbing down. There's books on it, the dumbing down of America and dumbing us down, or some of the
Homer
titles I've
Simpson,
got here actually. Homer
Peter,
Simpson. Yeah, it's
Peter
cool to be
Griffin.
stupid like Homer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Peter
yeah.
Griffin. Yep.
Yeah, it's just cool to be stupid, cool to be a fool, and people will emulate that, right? And Amathia. And anyway, you don't have to dumb down the whole population. You just have to dumb down a critical mass of it. And for instance, the border's wide open, and I, Masako and I, and so many others have spent so much time on the border. Many of us have, but. Uh, but the vast majority of Americans don't even bother. They don't even. They're just like, whatever. I'm just a turtle. shoot me off the log and throw me in the frying pan. You know what I mean? That's what they're doing. And likewise with the drugs. Now, when I say anything bad about Dope or Joe Rogan and Dope Head Rocket Boy on there pushing drugs to millions of people, they're like, hey, cannabis has medical uses too, as if that's why you're doing it. You're just a dope head, right? What about alcohol, man? Yeah, that too, dope head, right? I mean, at some point, you get to the point where you don't even treat them like equals anymore, because if they don't respect their own brain, I will not respect their thoughts. I don't respect their thoughts when they're doped up and they're giving doped up responses. What about alcohol, man? Yes, alcohol too, dope head, right? You don't even know what dope is, man. They'll tell you, then they'll start telling you dope is blah, blah, blah. Shut up, doper. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to just go, that's enough. Oh, what do you want to do? It's just a weed, man. It grows naturally, man. Yeah, rattlesnakes make venom naturally. That's natural too. Go ahead, let it strike you in the face, right? I mean, that's the level of stupidity that, so many people are like, yeah, but it's not, what are you going to do? Outlaw a weed, man? No, it's because you're stupid that you're having those thoughts. You've been dumbed down. Well, Jason right now would be like, calm down, Michael. You're going to have people clicking off the channel. It's true, Jason. I watch your show. I know what I've just done.
He is very calm.
He's more calm than I am. And
Jason
but he's right.
Calm.
I mean, but there's a lot of people that, like, on my last podcast, the last podcast, 2 different people had left comments that they stopped doing dope because of the way I talk. And that makes my day. When somebody says, hey, a couple of years ago, I saw you basically going off like a crazy man, against people that are not people, them per se, but against the weapon that's being used against us, whether that's alcohol, whether that's cocaine or whatever, crack or whatever you're doing, cannabis too. These are weapons that are used to destroy our entire country, right? And everybody watching this has had at least one drug addict in their family or close friend circles or somebody that went off the rails at some point. And if you've got one of those, whether that be gambling addiction or some kind of intoxicant or whatever, even if it's, if it's prescription, there was just a school shooting in Thailand. I'm going to go on the phone with a Thai friend today about that, because she's going to start something, and she's Thai. And anyway, but the point is I'm want to get to the bottom. What's going on in Thailand? Is it the drugs that they're pushing on the streets so hard now in Thailand, and prescriptions maybe, right? I don't know, but we need to. The point is that these are weapon systems used against us, whether it's opium or whatever. These are. I just read a book. I just finished it about 3 weeks ago. I mentioned it to you before. 9 Years with the Indians. Matt Bracken recommended it, and I read it. And I read it, finished it on the airplane on the way back from America to Japan. And this 9 Years with the Indians, the guy named Herman Lehman was kidnapped in Texas, and he was raised with Apaches and then with Comanches for a couple of years with them. I think 7 with Apaches. But at one point, the Apaches had a bunch of whiskey and they started killing each other. They weren't even killing white men. They just went on crazy one night and started going wild Indian on each other because of the firewater. One of the main ways that we beat the Indians was with whiskey. And it was just, we did a giant Gaza across the United States. It was a process war. The more you understand it, the more you understand actually what happened, the more you realize it's a process war. It took centuries to do that. I mean, my family landed in Jamestown in 1610 after they got shipwrecked on Bermuda, went right into fighting the Powhatan Indians, right? I mean, and it, kept right on going, right? And finally, when Commodore Perry came here to Japan, one of the ships he came with was called the Powhatan, by the way. He came in 1853 and 54 to threaten Japan to open up, right? But anyway, the dumbing down process then began in Japan, certainly by the 1800s. It didn't just start, I mean, Japanese noticed that it started after World War II. After World War II, it's super obvious, right? But before World War II, it's obvious to some people. But in reality, it started early on. It started much earlier. But the United States started getting, they were attacking the look, when you look at the amount of money some of the people were making in the building the Panama Canal, I have a lot of the original records, like a lot, and like enough that would fill up all of these bookshelves behind me and beyond. Right, I've got old maps, old charts, and studies, and schedules of how much some of the people were making. They were making, those young engineers were making like the equivalent today of $250,000, $350,000 a year. Young engineers paid in gold. They didn't have any income tax, right? And things were cheaper back then. I mean, they were rich, relatively speaking, right? And they were highly educated. They knew how to do stuff, right? They knew how to do, get out the protractor and the slide rule and do complex mathematics to build the Panama Canal, which was, that was no small feat. Speaking of which, there was a significant earthquake just before I went to, it just happened in Colombia, but it also affected the canal area. I had a friend that was right beside the canal yesterday when he felt it come through Panama City. So I'm hoping the Panama Canal wasn't damaged by that, because it actually was. There's a Holiday Inn right beside the Panama Canal in a place called Fort Clayton. I used to stay in that Holiday Inn. He said everybody was running out of that Holiday Inn, and all the United Nations buildings everybody was dumping out of them yesterday. But I hope the Panama Canal is okay.
Absolutely. Well, I saw that earlier as far as Colombia. I think it was 47 dead last I saw. And because we are live, we are getting some comments here. So I might just kind of hop back and forth between questions if you're open to that.
Well, we should answer those questions, yeah.
Or organic style. So real quick here, this is, let me pull up the question here real quick. This is from,
see if I can see it.
Let me scroll up here. It got lost in the search.
Let me see if I can see questions.
Here we go. One is from Lavender Moon Crystals. Can you ask Michael what is happening in Ireland with the IRA coming back?
I don't know. Masako and I went to Ireland about 4 or 5 years ago looking at this, and warning that this, and speaking of dumbed down, the leader of Sinn Féin, we spent an evening with her. Her name's Mary Lou McDonald. Mary Lou. We're walking down the street with her in Dublin, and everybody's like, Mary Lou, Mary Lou. Everybody wants a photo with Mary Lou. She's the dumbest. She is the leader of Sinn Féin at the time, completely dumbed down. But so what's happening there? So we were bringing up to her, like, the whole invasion going into Ireland. She's like, yes, it's great. We're going to increase the numbers and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, Matty Lou, she saw me saying this on one of the interviews, and I got a message from somebody that knows her. It was very devastating for her to see an American.
I didn't even know who she was. I had to pull her up.
Matty Lou.
I have her pulled up right now. It looks like she's the leader of the opposition party in Ireland.
She's all for. She's the jab pushing, DEI and all that other crap, LGBTQ, all that toxic crap. And she's captured. Sadly, there's one side of me that has compassion for those people, because I know that they're actually casualties in a war they don't understand. I know that. So there's one side of me that actually has deep compassion for them. But there's another side that recognizes that now they're arsonists and they're burning our societies down. So you've got, there's the side that's practical and says they must be stopped. And then there's the side that says, but they actually were captured by the same sort of evil people it's the arsonists that need to be stopped. And I mean the arsonists that are creating arsonists, the cult leaders of the arsonists, right? The little people like Mary Lou, she's just a wind-up potato girl. Wind her up, and they explode. Yeah, she's just she's like a jihadist, right? And so, but again, people like that are created in mass. So back to Ireland and the IRA. I don't know. Because are they going to form, if they don't have any immune response, the Irish will be killed, or their land will be taken. They'll be ran out or whatever. And I get updates from Ireland constantly. And notice where they built the camps at around Ireland. Somebody's asking that. Maybe they are Irish, or maybe or maybe have friends or family there. But you can see that where they built those camps for the migrants is, if you they're in key locations to control places like Dublin, right? Those aren't random places out in some farmer field. They're like, intersections and that sort of key intersections, right?
Hmm.
But the point is now, no doubt, if the if the if there's no immune response from the Irish, then they'll just be destroyed. If there is an immune response, of course, they will be attacked. But you have to just be willing to realize that this is it. You know what I mean? We're going to resist, and we're not going to allow this to happen, because you're going to die one way or the other, right? Are you going to keep running?
Yeah.
There's that one group, the chosen people, keep talking about no homeland, blah 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 blah. There's so many people that don't have a country. Like most cultures in the world don't have their own country, right? And the Irish have been running around all over the world for, that's why they, famines and everything else. So many people have tried and partially succeeded in genociding the Irish. And there were Irish slaves, the Redlegs down in Barbados, and across the islands. And I mean, Irish, they people have been beating them around the head for a long time, and the Zionists hate their guts. They hate the Irish, and so they'll kill the Irish. They'll take their land, and they'll find any excuse to do it. Oh, because you didn't, give us your 2 kidneys and support us to genocide Gaza. Oh, so we'll destroy Ireland. No, that's not what it's about. It's about going after, the chosen ones like Netanyahu. His actual name is Meliakovsky, right? So Meliakovsky, is actually, he talks about going after the Romans. I mean, he talks about literally going after the Romans. Not that there was Romans in Ireland. The Romans
Hmm.
didn't quite make it that far, but almost, but they didn't quite make it there. Anyway, I should keep quiet and keep trying to answer questions.
Sure. Okay. So another question I have, there's a number of questions here. So this is from, I believe, Monica, and I think maybe you answered a question earlier. Yep. Okay. Cool. You did answer another one, so I'll do hers back to hers or him. I'm not sure. Back to back here. What does Jan think about all the wildfires and flooding? For example, I live in a small town in northern Arizona. We had a severe monsoon storm with floods within 1 hour of hail with 77 mile per hour winds. Not natural.
I think some of it will be natural. I mean, because bad stuff has happened long before we had weather modification,
Hmm.
but it's very clear that we're under attack from any sort of weapon that they can possibly bring to bear, like removing water infrastructure so that floods are intense, right? In across Europe, you can find a website. Just look up, website removing water infrastructure Europe, and you'll see there's a website in English and it's got selections for other languages. And they actually brag about the water infrastructure they're removing. Wildfires.
Hmm.
Clearly, some of those wildfires are intentional. I mean, a lot of them. And suddenly, you'll have multiple sources of ignition or seats of ignition and in disparate places that happen to be upwind of the fuel source. And
Hmm.
I mean and not only that, but something that people have talked about for many years now is the failure to clear fire lanes, and failure to let wildfires do their course so that they're less intense. I mean,
Hmm.
just when fires happen, let them run, right? But now we've got these massive fuel loads, and so you end up when you go to Germany. I used to live in Germany. Their forests are very clean, and they're not clean because the Germans are out there, putzfraus, that's a cleaning lady. They're not out there putzing everywhere, cleaning, but it's because, I mean, that can reduce the intensity of wildfires, right? And they keep them clean. They keep them
Hmm.
clean so that their whole towns don't burn down, through experience. But obviously, like Masako and I, we went to Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, a few years ago, and people up there were telling us about these really intense fires, and they evacuated the entire Yellowknife, even though Yellowknife itself was never threatened. And then they kept people out of Yellowknife for some long period of time, which you could find in the news.
Hmm.
And it was very mysterious to the people when they finally were allowed to go home, allowed, uh, you know, and um, and they're like, well, what happened in our town while we were gone? You know, I don't know. Maybe they put listening devices in everybody's homes. I have no idea what they did.
Probably
I have no
I feel
idea.
like I feel like with all these, where's my phone? I mean, I guess I'm like everyone else. You know, I've got an iPhone and all, but I mean, everything they do, they listen to us. You know, from Windows to Mac. I mean, I've got a Mac and a Windows. I mean, literally everything they do. You got to love it. Real quick, your other question I had from same person, Monica. What are your thoughts about the return of the Phoenix in May of 2040? I'm not personally familiar with this, but they're asking this. Jason Preshires, if I'm saying his last name right, of Archaics, talks about this. His following has been growing. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but this was a question posed.
I'm not familiar with
Okay.
Jason nor
Okay.
the return of the Phoenix.
Okay. Gotcha. And then back to somebody else posed another question here pertaining to the chat is just filled with comments. So I'm just trying to find there's something pertaining to Ireland. Why? Oh yeah. Why do the Zionists hate the Irish? I think that was one other question. Circling back to the Irish.
Part of it is the Irish see themselves, at least part of it. I'm not sure how far this goes, but at least part of it is the Irish see themselves as, you know, rightfully actually, that they're in a position like the Palestinians. Because you know the people, I mean the British and the English in particular have tried to kill the Irish for a long, long time, right? They threw famine on them and all sorts of things, and the Irish being truculent like they are, you know, never they haven't collapsed, right? But they are, you know, they're certainly moved all over the world. They've got a diaspora, which is, you know, running, they're all over the world. I mean, and so, but part of it, you'll see the Irish have stood up against the genocide in Gaza as an example, and you can see Netanyahu actually becoming angry with the Irish, just like he did with the Spanish. You know, you see what's happening recently in Morocco with Ceuta. With the, I went to Ceuta like 4 or 5 years ago with Chuck Holton, actually warning about this. So we went there. I was right there at the fence for Ceuta, right? And but you know, some people are saying the reason that it's clear that the Israelis are behind that. Let's just cut through the bullshit. It's clearly the Israelis. Now the Moroccans use the weaponized migration also as a diplomacy tool, if you want to call it that, with the Spanish. But the Zionists are trying to get control of the Strait of Gibraltar, right? And they have a long-standing feud with the Spanish. Long, you know, the professional victims. The victim is always saying that we were treated badly in such and such place, right? And so I've got a book here. Actually, I've showed it to you before. I've got the cover here. The book's in my other library room now. And but it's a book written by Maliakovsky, Netanyahu's dad, and it's about the Spanish Inquisition in the 1500s. You know, and he's doing the whole, you know, they were so bad to us and that sort of thing. And I'm sure they were, but it went back and forth, and it has gone back and forth for a long time, right? And so the Zionist, let's say the Jewish, a Jewish component of the Zionist, I mean, sorry, yeah, of the Zionist, have a long-standing feud with the Spanish or with Catholics, let's say, right? So it's more complex than all of these things. Would require a table of academics sitting around, and they would end up throwing things at each other, and you know how this goes.
Oh yeah. You know, tangentially, I was listening to, there's a guy, I'm blanking out on his show, but he was like a former UFC fighter. He's got a channel. I don't necessarily subscribe to everything that's espoused on the platform. I think it's Jake Shields. Yeah, I think it's Jake Shields. Again, I've seen some of his content. You know, it's funny, this is very tangential, but it's like, you can never satisfy everybody. You bring on different guests. Everyone's got their own opinion, but throwing that out there. But anyhow, he's brought on a person. He's I think he's got a PhD. It was really interesting, him talking about, what was he talking? He was talking about the Jews and slavery, and you know, in the New World, so to speak. And then I'm losing my train of thought here. What was he was? Damn, I'm trying to remember what it is. He was touching on some very interesting topics. I'm drawing a blank right now, but he's a really. I'll have to send you the link here.
I see some of the comments here. They finally are popping up.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, maybe that'll come back to me here in a moment. Real quick. Okay. So yes, it was Jake Shields. Yeah. I have another question here. This is from Alchemy. It looks like, can you ask Michael Jan if he is familiar with Christopher John Björknes and his interpretation of unfolding geopolitical events, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know if you're familiar with him, but.
No, I'm
Okay.
not. And
Okay.
should I? Should I? In other words, do you know who he is?
I just looked him up right now. I was actually listening to him. There's another gentleman. He's got a show on YouTube. Looks like he stopped doing his work, but it's called Seven Seas, spelled SEES, and he was interviewing him, the Kabbalistic Doomsday Death Cult with Christopher John Yerkes.
SEES. Oh, so we're going back to the Vatican.
I don't know. I just was on YouTube. I was looking up the guy, but it was pretty interesting to
Uh,
listen to. He was breaking down Kabbalah and all the esoteric elements within that. So,
hmm.
okay, so that addressed that. And then let me pull the other question here. I'm looking at here.
These
Okay,
things are deeply entwined, by the way. By the time we were
yeah.
born, this stuff was mature 2,000 years ago.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah, exactly. Okay, so other question here. This is from Strawberry Fields. Why are the Falkland Islands strategically important? How far back does the Greater Israel Project go?
actually, the Falkland Islands. I've been getting old maps on the Falklands from 1700s and whatnot. Those fights have been going on for a long time,
Hmm.
and and they are well. If you look at where the Falklands are, and you'll have no problem seeing why they're strategic, actually. But they're very important, and so they're not like as important as the Strait of Hormuz or the Suez Canal or Panama Canal, but they're one of those squares on the chessboard you would want to control, and and especially given the amount of squeeze that it takes to get that juice is not very much, right? So it's not like you would expend a significant part of your assets getting it. Now, keep in mind, Argentina is basically increasingly a Zionist formation, right? China is fighting for it as well, but the Zionist, Buenos Aires, been down there, is it is a, I think it's the third largest population of Jews actually in the world, but also a lot of Zionists as well. And the Zionists and the Nazis moved there, heavily together at the end of World War II and ever since. So the Zionists and the Nazis, I mean, they're buddies. You know what I mean? I mean, unpopular to say it, but it's just the facts, and it's the provable facts. It's not. It's in their own words. Like if you look up, you'll find old newspaper articles from that era, the 30s and the 40s, of Jews and Zionists killing the crap out of each other. You'll find newspaper articles, Jewish partisans kill Zionists, and Zionists kill Jews and all this stuff. It's on and on and on. And
Hmm.
many of the Jews are Zionists, but actually Zionism is a large cult. So what is Zionism? Zionism is a let's say a cult that was created to take land, right? And it started with Palestine, right? And now it's that pernicious cult is taking other land. It's taking little pieces of Thailand now, Koh Tao, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, Pai. It's slowly moving in, doing its thing. It's taking parts of Panama and Argentina, United States, right? And
Hmm.
so the Zionist cult has different components, subcomponents. One of those, the biggest subcomponent, the biggest part of the pie chart is Christian Zionism, which is the way I was raised, right? So that's the biggest part of. I've got the Schofield Bible right over there, by the way, and the so the Christian Zionist component is the biggest. That's the biggest useful idiots, actually, and that's how I was raised. And then another useful idiot component are the Jewish Zionists, and then another useful idiot are the atheist Zionists. But those are the ones who seem to be actually leading the pack more. Is actually some of the Jewish Zionists who kill Jews like crazy, because this is the normal color spectrum of different groups. And then there's let's say a significant number, an unknown number of Muslim Zionists. So there's actually so the Zionism is a cult, and it has subcomponents and subcomponents of subcomponents, like cults do,
Hmm.
and huge cults anyway. And this is a cult about, all the wars that I've ever studied are about one or all three of these things: routes, resources, and ideology. Ideology is about human resources, right? So controlling human resources, you can take the other resources. So you get people into cults. Ready-made cults are common. I mean, like for instance, suicide bombers. They get people into their cult, and Allahu Akbar, blow people up. And I've been in quite a lot of those attacks. I've been right there, and people dead, body parts everywhere. Allahu Akbar, boom, and that's it. And you can see a lot of the photos I've taken from those attacks online, right? I've been there, done that, right? And actually, by the time I was in the wars, I had already studied cults and had tracked down cannibals and everything else. And at some point, I just realized a lot of things. You will never see the cult that you're in. You'll see everybody else's cult. That's pretty obvious.
100%.
And yeah, you're like, there's that guy wearing bells, dancing around. Poor guy doesn't know he's in a cult. And meanwhile, you can be in multiple cults, by the way. You can be in, there's cults that are cults within cults. And often if you're making a cult, you can graft it on like a tree branch. You can graft the orange branch onto a grapefruit tree. You know what I mean? And so that's common. And so you can have these hybrid, and that's actually one of the most common ways. Like, for instance, if you want to make a cult that is going to seize vital territory of Palestine, because that's very important terrain. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this with minimum effort and maximum results and get people to do our work for us mostly? And you form cults, which is, people know how to form cults just like they know how to build roads. I mean, it's easy to build cults if you know what you're doing. I'm thinking about making an anti-cult cult. Jason, I wonder what Jason Christoph would say about that.
He'd be like a good T-shirt.
Yeah,
you should make a T-shirt.
Join my T-shirt. Join my anti-cult cult. And if I can get Jason Christoph to say Planet Mind Control and get him to hold up and say, "But this is not a cult," then we'll succeed. But yeah. that was kind of a multi-layered joke there. Well, but the point is, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought there.
But so when the big cult makers, which at the time was British, in the 1800s, when they were forming this construction of Zionist cult to take that land, they're like, well, we got to get the Christians involved. So they graft on with the Christians, Schofield Bible, all this different stuff, do pulpit warfare, hiring, coercing, whatever, setting up churches. Now you end up with mega churches all over the place, millions of people, and either in these huge churches in places like Texas and Florida, and and reaching millions of people on television and YouTube with these things. And then you've got the Jewish component, and then you've got some actually Muslims, like a lot of Kurds are Zionists, and then you've got atheists who are Zionists who will say, God promised us this land, but they're Zionists, but they're atheists. But, you can't make up that stuff. But that's what cults do. Cults don't have to make sense. They're not about making sense. They're about making something, like money, like getting land or getting power, right? Power has different faces for different people. Different people view power differently, right? But so that cult is a very comprehensive cult. It was made at the nation state level, right? Like the Panama Canal was made at the nation state level. That's a significant piece of work, right? Some of these cults are small, created by some guy, Jim Jones or Guyana or something. And they're like, this like a local restaurant, cult, you know what I mean? It's like just a local thing. And then others are significantly larger, and that's nation state. And now it's grown like kudzu, and it's not about homeland for Jews anymore. It's doing what it was designed to do, which is take as much land as it can do, right? And so now it's going for Argentina. It's going for Morocco. Now, Morocco doesn't see that yet, I'm guessing, because of I've been to Morocco looking at, I think Morocco doesn't see it yet. Maybe they do, because there's a lot of very smart Moroccans. But if a few Moroccans see it, that's not going to be enough. But the Zionists are using Morocco, Ceuta, which is a Spanish city, is an enclave in Morocco, right? Ceuta is what some people call it by different names. A lot of people call it Ceuta, right? Like when you're over there, they call it Ceuta. And others call it Quetta. Anyway, it's that Spanish enclave, EU city in Africa. It's an enclave in Morocco, right? That and Melilla, right? And so those two enclaves are Spanish, and they're EU cities. Ceuta is one of the pillars of Hercules. A pillar of Hercules. Those are the two shoulders where you basically can control the Strait of Gibraltar, right? Which is pretty serious, right? That's a big deal to control the Strait of Gibraltar. And so, Morocco has about 70% of the world's phosphate, estimated 70%. I don't know what's true, but that's what's, publicly estimated, 70%. Morocco is a very serious place for those two reasons and a lot more, right? So the Zionists are moving heavy in Morocco. By the way, Morocco was the first country to recognize the United States. And every time in 1777, every time I've said that to Moroccans that I meet different places, they're always like, wow, no Americans know that. You're welcome, because I always say thank you for being the first to recognize us. And they're like, oh, wow, you're welcome. No Americans know. I mean, they recognize us for trade purposes, but yeah, they were the first ones. And the United States has had very good relations with Morocco. I wish I was there. I wish Masako and I were there for a year or two, actually. I like Morocco, but and I like Moroccans, but will be subverted by the Zionists. When Chuck Holt and I were there, these road signs that they have in Morocco, they used to be in Arabic and French, and now they're in Arabic and this like strange language. And it's a Berber language actually, but they actually they have a sort of a strange alphabet. It looks like a Star Wars alphabet. Now keep in mind, between Chuck and me, we've been to pretty much every country in the world, between us both. And I looked at that. I'm like, Chuck, what alphabet is that? I've never seen that alphabet. And he said, I don't know. I've never seen it either. So I'm like, so two guys who collectively have seen this planet have never seen that alphabet. I said to him, that's information war. There's a language war going on, because I've seen that. I've seen language wars in different. I spent a lot of time with Maoists out in Nepal and other stuff, right? And I've seen how they do their language wars. And what they're doing is they invented this new alphabet based on some old characters. And if you look at some of the roads, you could find it quickly online and see that strange alphabet. And so a lot of the Moroccans, the Berber people, are like, why are we coming up with a new alphabet that none of us can read? And why don't we just use Arabic characters? We all can read Arabic characters, and just modify the Arabic so that it's ours. It's got little swooshes or something, and got just extra to make it personalized. But what's really going on is just divide and conquer. Language wars are one of those components, like modern Hebrew is and modern Mandarin, right? These are modern Russian. These are things that were designed in service of modern Turkish. They were designed in service of information war. Modern Hebrew, as an example, I've got several books on it here. I was looking at one the other day. I think I took it back into the other room as well. But modern Hebrew was made in large part to separate actual Jews from Yiddish, right? So they don't speak Yiddish anymore. And actually, when I first came across Yiddish, I was reading some, and I picked up a book or something, and I was reading it, and I said, this is the strangest dialect of German I've ever seen. I could understand a lot of it, actually. And I asked a German professor, I said, what dialect is this? It was a German professor I know. He said, oh, that's Yiddish. I said, oh, it looks German. He said, well, it's based, it's partly German, right? And but I can understand quite a bit of Yiddish, actually. But the point is that with modern Hebrew, that is a way that you can separate people from their history. So you can separate and control people. And modern Hebrew is more weaponized in the sense that it's used as part of the Zionist cult, right? So these are subtle ways. Subtle, is that subtle? I mean, modern Hebrew is not subtle, right? I mean, but the point is, people might not understand why it was done, right? It's done to separate people. And there's a modern Japanese as well, and so we get separated off by new languages. Either sometimes it's just sort of emergent evolution of the language, but in other components, it's clearly and openly weaponized. It's openly weaponized if you know what you're looking at. It's as openly It's as open as like the Panama Canal. Okay, I know what that is. That is a canal. Somebody built it, And the weaponized languages are just like that. Anyway, I'm rambling on, but it's very important.
Noted. Well, we have a number of other questions from the audience here. There's one. This was from a while back here. Again, I'm just kind of hopping around, addressing questions. If you have questions, please, list it in the chat. I'll do my best to have Michael answer it. This is from Regular Guy 509. What are the best places to be in the United States in the coming chaos? Personally, I have retreated to Idaho, but considering other options, thank you both.
Well, I mean, you're going to Idaho is a good start. I mean, certainly being out of all the big cities, right? And I like places that get super cold in the winter because that'll keep a lot of people out that would just settle there because it's warm. Look at Hawaii, man. I've been to Hawaii up in those jungles when I was researching cults, actually, weirdly. And there's tens of thousands of people that live up in those jungles because they can get free fruit off the trees and it's warm weather. And just imagine when things go really south, you've got those tens of thousands. And I've been up there with those people. I've been up in the hills talking with them. They're out there. A lot of them are doing drugs and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Mhm.
Planet of the Apes. Here we go. Or zombies, right? So, but where in the United States? Probably someplace like Alaska, certainly, I mean, that's such a hard question. It's one that millions of people have asked for long since we were born. I mean, this is a question from the 1700s. It's always been that, right? But now, of course, we're going into a position where we could go into famines, and it could be a while before that happens. But I think at some point, there's a high likelihood that it will. There's no certainty in anything, but it's going in that direction. So you're not going to want to be anywhere that somebody can just ride a bicycle up to you in a day or two.
Noted. And then I saw, and we can either touch on this now or later on. This is pertaining to your post that you did on Zihan and his take on food security, things of that nature. So we can either address that now or later on if you'd like.
Yeah, let's hit Zahan.
Okay.
Peter Zahan. What a show. The reason I read his book, what's the name of that book? I read it. I should know because I read the whole book cover to cover. I was reading it when I was next to the Rio Grande. I was on the Mexican side watching huge numbers of people from the Mexican side go into Texas. And I'm sitting there on these park benches, right by Eagle Pass, but on the Mexican side. And reading his book and just thinking and the reason, again, I was reading it was so many people were asking me about him. And, it's just nonsense. Peter Zahan, look, first of all, he was a jab pusher. That guy was literally sick. I put the video up of him, where he's literally sick and sniffling and he's bragging about how many jabs he got. And he's going through all these different Omicron variants and all this stuff. He's still pushing the jab while he's coughing and wheezing. He's literally coughing and wheezing on the video. You can't make up the stuff. Talk about cult, right? And I mean, straight up cult. The guy's talking about he says basically the United States has, you can find it in his book, has plenty of space for everybody. Food security in America is not an issue. He's very clear about that in his book, which is an abject lie. Now, in 2020, when I was saying the United States could go into famine eventually, people were getting upset. They're like, don't you understand? The United States is the biggest food exporter in the world. And I'm like, brother, I understand. I understand a lot. And that the United States has been the biggest food exporter in the world for a while. I don't know what the numbers are now. That is in no way prophylactic against famine at all. And those who've seriously studied famine would know that, right? You would know that being a big food producer, that doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't mean that you're not going to go into famine at all. Look at Ukraine, in the Holodomor or Henan province, China, right? Huge food producer, or where I was at in Iraq in Diyala province. They didn't go into famine, but they were starting to go into food problems, which is the biggest food producing area of Iraq. I was there. I was in Diyala a lot. I was there. I wrote about it. We went and battalion-sized missions with Stryker vehicles in 2007, and because there was some Shia people that controlled the huge food warehouse and weren't releasing the food to the Sunni people and component of people in Diyala province. Petraeus messaged me. He's like, you might want to go with these people. So I ended up on this mission, right? And the guy's like, we're not going to release the food. There's a huge, massive warehouse. And the guy, and I made video of this. So that video, some of it's online, as I recall. I mean, I made it. And so I'm in there. So the idea was, when the commander brought me in there and I'm making video, the commander used me as part of the leverage to try to get him to release the food so he didn't have to get arrested and just get it. They wanted the Iraqis to release the Iraqi food to the Iraqis, right? But the point is, Diyala province, a big food producer, could go into famine because the Shia were going to get revenge on the Sunni, right? They could just start cutting off, that warehouse and different routes and that sort of thing. Next thing you know, you got food problems, which would be our problems, which would be, and so, so at one point, so I'm in there in the office, and there's Stryker vehicles all out there, like a lot of them, battalion size, and there's Apaches flying around. I remember, in Kiowa, Warrior helicopters flying low, and I remember the commander's like, have them do, have the helicopters come low and all this stuff making noise, like, and so he's telling the American commander, is Lieutenant Colonel Johnson, I think was his name. Fred Johnson, I think, and he was like, basically, you're going to release the food, or we're going to take it. And he said, see that journalist there, which I hate to be called journalist, but he's making, this is going to be all over the news in Iraq tonight. He said, as I recall, Maliki and Petraeus are all watching this right now, and they're watching what your decision is, whether you're going to release the food and be the hero here, or you're not going to release the food and things are going to go badly for you, right? This was an offer. So he released the food. So we go back with like 80 semi-trucks, as I recall, filled with food that one night. And that's online. You can see me writing about food and Bakuba and warehouse. You could probably find it with that. And you might find video and photos of that day. But the point is Diyala province, food basket of Iraq, on the verge of food problems because somebody says you ain't going to get the food. Look at Ireland. Ireland is a huge food basket and had massive famine. Actually, parts of Ireland were not even in famine. So when there was a famine in Ireland, Masako and I when we went to Ireland, this is one of the things we studied. I read several books on the Irish famine. I don't know what's true and what's not, but I've got an Irish famine map, actually, and some of the counties were not even in famine at all. And likewise, when there was famine in Ukraine, parts of Ukraine were not even in famine. Same with China. It's not like all of China was in famine. Parts of it were. And it happened to be, the worst famine was in the biggest food producing place. You can't make up this stuff. And meanwhile, Chinese, when they were in famine, Mao was exporting cotton. He was exporting exporting opium while they're in famine. This is the kind of stuff that happens. So the fact that we're a big food producer, that doesn't mean anything whatsoever. Anyway, what was the final? I lost track of the question with that long answer.
I was in reference to your post that you made pertaining to Zion. Again, I don't have an opinion on him. I haven't followed his work. I have seen some of his stuff. I know my take, and I vocalize this with others in that I don't take a lot of people seriously who have these credentials or former CIA or former military or whatever, and they're not talking about occult societies. I'm just kind of. So I was just out the other day, out and about with friends, grabbing a drink and just, hearing people out and conversations. And you could tell who is still plugged in, so to speak, into the Leviathan, the Matrix, and those who aren't. And I just find it absolutely asinine that no one talks about this. And I'm also careful to omit names, but these big name people, people on Rumble, names everyone sees, people all over YouTube, these people who get so much attention. I wanted to cuss, but I know we're live here. So they're getting so much attention, but they totally leave you, the mass audience bereft of more viewpoints. You don't hear anything about it. Again, I'll reference this, and I don't mean to. I know I feel bad for some people because I talk about this stuff so much because I think it's so freaking profound. You know, the whole the whole SRA topic. I'm not going to go off on a tangent here because I'm going to get back to the questions and what you're saying. But nobody talks about
something
that.
I want to talk about that in detail. We need to get that midwife. And I asked her yesterday if she would come on. Right? I think she'll do it, and she speaks English. She can do it. Her English is good enough. She could do it, and she's Japanese. But the point is that the whole programming the children and all this stuff. I mean, it's very clear that they're doing that on a mass basis globally. I mean, this isn't boutique stuff where some, lady that dresses like a witch is doing it in her little, cabin somewhere, which I'm sure that happens. This is industrial scale, right? What is this?
This is one of the hotbeds where they do it. This is on the border of France. Here, let me see. Hold on here. Let me know if you guys in the audience, guys and gals in the audience, can see it at all. I don't know if you can. It's Chateau. Let me read here. It's Chateau. I don't speak French. Chateau de Amora or whatever. This is in Belgium, and this is where they do a lot of the rituals over. This is a very famous castle. It's from the 19th. It's not. Well, it's from the 19th century. It's a I don't know, Gothic style or whatever. But this is a place where they do. You mentioned witches, and I'm thinking of black magic. But this is. I don't know if people can see it. That is a hot spot. If I was in Europe, I'd probably go over there right now and check it out. I was actually just thinking the other day, like, man, I need to do like a solo trip to Europe. I had never done a solo trip, but maybe I'll go incognito and check out all these places.
Oh man, so I've done a lot of solo trips around the world doing stuff, and you can get a lot done like that. I mean, oh gosh, that's when I infiltrated a cult in California and all this. So I mean, if you I lived with them, but I mean, to not see that there's another multiple plumbing levels, and I haven't worked them out because they're too dark and murky, but they're clearly there. The question is how. I mentioned to you one time in the last 24 hours, I think, when you look at, I read a book on cholera in London outbreak, 1853, 1854. It's called Ghost Map. And the book Ghost Map was a very interesting book. John Snow is the father of epidemiology, right? So John Snow, 1853. I thought
that was the guy from Game of Thrones. I'm joking.
Oh.
I'm joking. I'm joking. That was bad. I should cut him off.
What was it? The guy's name?
He's a character from Game of Thrones. This is totally tangential. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, right.
Yeah, sorry.
And so, and so when he was starting to suspect, hey, this stuff might be coming from the water. The problem might be the water. And so then he started getting suspicious about this one pump at Broad Street in London. And I took Masako to that pump, by the way. Because it's there, they've got it. It's in front of a bar now. Actually, Broad Street. It was in front of a bar back then too, but it's probably the same bar. And but the Broad Street pump, he's like, what he did was he mapped it all out. He mapped out the cases, and he did it old school. He actually went. Most of the doctors sat around in their cigars, smoking in tea houses, and they would pontificate about this and that and the other. But he's one of those guys that says, put the boots on, let's go. So he starts mapping everything out, talking with everybody. And at some point, he's like, I think it's coming from that pump, which doesn't make any sense because everybody knows cholera comes from miasma, right? Miasma, which means bad smelling air, right? Malaria is bad smelling air, miasma. But they thought that the cholera came from the same, right? Not that cholera and malaria are the same. They're very different. But the point is they both were thought to come from miasma, bad smelling air, right? But putrid air, and that sort of thing. Anyway, but at some point he's like, it's coming from that pump. And, so he's trying to get the other medical people to remove the pump handle. Right. So if you hear an epidemiologist say we need to remove the pump handle, that's John Snow. He's like, we have to remove the pump handle. And they're like, no, we can't do that. That's the favorite. Everybody loves that pump. People come from all over London to get that water because it's unfortunately catch-22. It was really good tasting water. But anyway, so he's trying to figure out where is this water even coming from? And so and he tries to get old, diagrams of the plumbing underneath London and those pipes, the water pipes were laid over generations a long time ago. and now everybody's lost track of who even put them in. You know what I mean? There's different companies, and so they know that the water runs, but they don't exactly know where this water comes from. And so he starts doing experiments like dropping water into the source and seeing if it comes out. And finally he found, okay, it's coming from here, right? But what I'm getting to is, figuring out that those pipes under London, that's what it's like figuring out with these cults and whatnot. These things are old and they're complex and they grow into each other and they syncretize and then so they'll have components and and a lot of the origins can fade to gray. Things tend to fade to gray, right? Mm-hmm. But they're clearly there. They're clearly there. They're clearly powerful. Like today, the cult of the hardcore of the Zionist cult, those guys are clearly into things like black magic. They're clearly into that sort of stuff, and they don't even hide it. I mean, that's an amazing thing about them. They're pretty open about it. They're very similar to the Agoris that I studied.
Well, what I need to do, and that's a group I need to read more about. I remember you referencing that previously. Max Lowen is someone that we should do a multi interview with. I'd love to have you meet her. I reached out to, I don't know if you're familiar with a man named Francis Hunt, but I've had him on my show a number of times. I've actually wanted him to meet you and some others. So I'm situating that, but there's actually a lady, I reached out to her. I haven't received her email back yet. I invited her to come on the show. Her name is Jessica.
Wait, Francis Hunt. He does Francis metals Hunt. Or something. Right?
Yes. Yep. Does
he do?
Yeah. Francis Hunt. Yeah.
I wonder what his views are on silver and gold right now. Yeah. I wonder what he's thinking about the silver and gold issues now. Because with that, anyway, I hear those. I like to watch the silver and gold guys because there's signal that goes through those markets. But anyway, but yeah, I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say, well, just tangentially, yeah, it is fascinating how the people that have a keen eye with the financial markets, I mean, really a keen eye, they know when something's about to happen. They know in advance, okay, money's leaving this market, it's rotating here, something's about to happen. But anyhow, but back to this gal, her name is Jessica says Bator. I don't know. It's got to be Spanish. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not, whatever. Anyhow, and she's got, I'll have to add it in the link. That's pretty bad. I can't pronounce it. Anyhow, it's some other language, but I'll have to send the material to you and to other people here. It's CZEBOTAR, says Bator or what have you. Anyhow, fascinating. I'll send you some literature on this because she breaks it down. The structures, it'll give perhaps you and some of these other people a really good, more granular take on it. And then I'm sure you've heard of Arizona Wilder. That's another interesting person to listen to. And then
who's Arizona Wilder? Let's see.
Yeah, you got to check her. And then Fiona Barnett is another one. I encourage people to hear her take on that. That's pretty fascinating. Zabator, thank you. Zabator. I'll type it in the chat here. I don't know why I can't pronounce it. It's pretty bad. I took Spanish years ago. Yeah, Tony Blair comes from, Tony Blair is definitely in the club. That's for sure. Yeah, they're all in it. And then who was another person? I picked up another book. This one's called, I know I'm just hopping around here. So the audience, if you have questions, I know there's some questions I need to get back to. There's another one I picked up. This book's called Sparky, Surviving Sex Magic. Dr. Juliet M. Engel. I'm having her on next week. I'm going to read the back. Sparky is a memoir of a girl born into a family of intelligence operatives in 1955. Age 6, she was sold by her father in the CIA Secret Monarch MK Ultra program and selected for sex magic, blah, 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 ritual abuse, multiple identities. And this is what the folks upstairs are working on. Anyhow, so that's, I'll have to tee up some conversations there. Anyhow, I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm looking at the text messages here from everybody, or all the elites are bloodlines. Yes, they are all bloodlines. Ronald Bernard. I don't know if you're familiar with that person. Yeah, check out that. I'll send you all this, or I'll send you this book. Anyhow, I don't mean to turn this into myself and my thoughts. So we're having you on. So here, let me put the other questions here. This is from LDG2281 on YouTube. I would like to know what he feels we as humanity should do with all that is going on around the world and with what is being planned for humanity, ? Trying to keep him off. Okay. Anyhow, So it looks like, yeah, I would like to know what he feels, what we as humanity should basically be doing. I think you had pretty much kind of addressed that already. Just
One
being
is
prepared.
don't go along with the evil. Just don't go along with it, right? I mean, resist at your level. Like don't drink their drinks. You know what I mean? Like these sugar drinks that they call colas. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many things. You know, and Jason Christoph was talking about that on your recent talk with him. And like some of these things are just poison. They're straight up poison.
Yeah, it's you got to love it. Here's another question that I have. Okay, okay. Hold on 1 second. I got to scroll up here. It was just up here. Let me pull it up. Pardon the delay here, everyone. It was just up here. There's so many comments here. I can't find it. Maybe someone else will post it. Someone had a question there. I'll have to look for it. But anyhow, this is what happens when you go live, right? You can't cut out the filler stuff. Okay, we'll keep the questions coming, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but somebody's right. They make a comment how it is exasperating to listen to me because I do go off on tangents because I study so many things, but I'm probably not going to change. So if it's too exasperating, it's better just to go somewhere else.
It's all good.
I'm not saying go from your channel. But it's just the way it is.
No, I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
We all have our idiosyncrasies. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, know, so, and that's one of mine. Yeah.
Where was the? Let's see. I'm trying to look. Oh man, there was a comment. I'm trying to find it. I'm so used to doing it pre-recorded, right? Where you just edit out all the filler stuff. But anyhow, maybe someone will.
What's Gray's RC? Who's the Grays? I don't know.
Oh, the Gray. Oh, that's right. Someone was asking about your thoughts on it. The Grays RCI. Oh, gotcha. I think they're talking about the gray aliens that you hear about. Yeah. So somebody else and I'm remembering. One of the other questions was pertaining to your take on the ET phenomena. What is your stance on that? And then I think this is also pertaining to the gray aliens that are depicted in a lot of films.
I'm not even paying attention to it. I mean, on the ET stuff, the idea that there's people that live out there or things. I mean, why not? I mean, it's a big universe. It appears big from where I'm sitting anyway, but I don't know.
Sure.
You know, and I know one thing. It's a subject that Misako and I often have is even the smartest humans out there have not been able to beat sheep at making wool yet, right? You know what I mean? And I'm like, just God's little simple wool. Like it's very difficult to beat that, and we really don't know that much. I study constantly for decades, and yet the more you study, the more you're just like, wow, we really don't know much at all. And but I do know that I find useful patterns in what's going on around us. You know what I do? I just read a huge amount of these books. And then I just change the dates and the names, and it all comes true again.
Yeah,
it's right out of the Bible. Nothing new under the sun, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I hear you now. She said, "Why are the Greys experimenting on humans?" Okay, so I know you're not following it too much. I mean, my take on it is, I guess these entities, which are basically just drones for some other entity, are making another. They're cloning people. Or they're doing hybrid programs on people. That's what I've come across is that they're basically. Yeah. I think there's clones. I don't think everyone's human at the top. That's my. I've heard
people say that, but
yeah,
I tell you what, it would be nice to find one of those clones and say, "I know this is for the good of humanity," and punch them in the nose and try to collect some blood.
Sure.
Of course, you're going to end up in prison if you're wrong.
Yeah,
and you're going to end up getting eaten by the alien if you're right.
Exactly. I have another person asking about. Okay, I know you're familiar with the plan. I'm familiar with it, but they're asking. I presume for those in the audience who are not familiar, the Kalergi plan. If you'd like to opine on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, the plan of overwhelming us with population. I mean, it's like, I've spent so much time on the border. Let me just tell you what, somebody's doing it. Somebody's clearly doing the Clearview plan, or I don't know all aspects of the plan, but
Mm-hmm.
insofar as overwhelming us with invaders, it's like nakedly happening,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an old game. There's nothing new about it either. I mean, these sorts of things have happened over centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, that's what we did to the Indians. Except I'm not sure that that was just a massive plan. There was a lot of different groups that were doing it. But overwhelming people with numbers is just it's old, and it's happening to us now. And a lot of the people doing it are definitely 100% Zionist. I mean, there's no question about it. I physically see them with my own eyes, talk with them. I've been to
Mm-hmm.
their offices, right? Like the highest office down in Panama, as an example.
Who's the
Hebrew Immigrant
most?
Aid Society.
Mm-hmm. Who's the most? If you're able to share, I don't know, interesting character or figure that you've interacted with. I mean, just like very high level or.
Oh, I don't know. So many. I mean, I met so many. I've met 3 directors of CIA actually, and
Mm-hmm.
all at their request, which is interesting. Um, uh, but I mean, are they particularly interesting?
Mm-hmm.
One of the most interesting characters I ever met was that cannibal from Houston, Gary
Mm-hmm.
Stevenson. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I interviewed him a lot. I interviewed him a huge amount, and but that he was interesting on the cult level, and on a lot of other levels. I mean, that was a deeply interesting guy. He's dead now, though. But if you look up his name and my name, you'll see photos of us together actually online. Gary Stevenson.
Hmm. By the way, I put in the chat here. This is the gal here. This is for everybody. I know I'm botching the last name. Very interesting, Michael. I'll have to send you some stuff on that. That is fascinating. I'll share with you some other books here. I don't know if you care. Well, I guess I'll just share. So I picked up one of Leo. Have you connected with Leo Zagami or no, by chance?
No.
Okay, interesting guy. This is one of
Mm-hmm.
his books I picked up
Yeah.
recently. Encourage people to check it out.
Mm.
Um, I'm having him on next week, so he's good.
Oh.
Here, look at that for a book cover, Michael.
Oh, there you go. That's similar to
It's the
my
Vatican.
Twitter,
Yeah,
my ex splash pages that paint. Yeah, interesting, huh?
yeah. Now I'm looking at your Twitter feed right now while we get in some. We wait for some comments to come in here. Feel free to keep sending your questions in, everybody. I'm looking at your Twitter. Yeah, your feed here. How about some other things that you're observing that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, the a lot of the things on the aliens and whatnot, it seems to me like just a distraction op. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that there's not aliens. In fact, if the universe is as big as it's advertised to be, then it's almost like how would there not be, and so and to pretend that we would be the most advanced, I mean, that would just be basically probably ignorance and narcissism. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we've never actually been to another star, to my knowledge, or even another planet, which is like right around the corner. Mars isn't that far away, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean, and the moon's very close. We see it, all the time. But we really don't know that much. But what we do know is there are people that are always trying to control and manipulate us. All the wars that I know are about routes, resources, and ideology. And ideology is about human resources. If you can control a narrative, if you can create a cult, you can control the people, which is what Jason Christoff and others are always talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I spent a significant amount of time studying cults. And I mean, really, I'm not talking about just reading books. I mean, I tracked them down out in the jungles of India and yada, yada. I lived with one in California. I tracked them in the jungles of Hawaii, right? I mean, I've been all over the place looking at these guys. And it was one of the most educational parts of my whole architecture of knowledge that I've been working on for years. When you're speaking of which, an architecture of knowledge, when you're trying to figure out to, let's say, what's your goal? What's your goal? There's only so many things that we can study in our lives, right? Because it's as little as we know, we do know a lot for one human mind to absorb, right? And so you have to sit back and go, what is it that I want to know, right? And so, and then how do I get there? Like, how do I build a canal across from the sea of ignorance to the sea of knowledge, right? And so, well, first pick the right places to dig and the right tools, and some of the right tools for might be mathematics, might be one of the tools that you need. Study of mind control is absolutely essential. Study of cults is absolutely essential if you're studying from in the architecture the things that I want to know, and so I've spent decades studying. So what you need to do is figure out, what do I need to know to get there. So those are the components of the knowledges that I need, and then start working on those. Because because ultimately you're going to have to combine various avenues of study, which is why you see when I talk, you see people see me going off on river branches all the time, because I've deeply studied a lot of stuff. I don't have habits like watching football. I don't know one single football player's name. I don't know one single professional current sports player's name. I know Pele and stuff like that, right?
You sound like
Joe
me.
Namath. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't have time for that bullshit, right? You know what I'm saying? I know, and there's serious stuff going on, and that's ephemera, right? When I go and meet old friends and they want to talk about, some guy just signed on from the University of Florida, some professional football team, and he hurt his knee last year, and he got so much he doesn't like the coach. I'm like, are you kidding me, man? It's like, it's like, okay. And that's like a Joe Biden thing. You kidding me? Yeah. And but the point is if you're developing, if you figuring out what you want to know, and then start to study those components of that. What do I need to know to get there, right? So I've studied war quite a lot. War is just a component. My library is basically, I call it a war library, but the war is just one component of it. War is a component. I'm trying to figure out how things work so I can predict what happens next in this world, right? Because your ability to predict things that are important, that's a higher level of intelligence, actually, to be able to do that, right? That's a very high level of intelligence, to be able to predict things that others don't even see at all. And so if you're trying to develop that, you're going to have to study. One of the things you deeply need to study, because we deal with humans a lot, is if you're trying to predict things that involve humans, is the study of cults, right? And the study of religions, and the study of mind control, and how do our minds work. It's very difficult. That painting you just showed, from the Sistine Chapel, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Look, you see that? He's inside of a brain. You see, he's inside of a brain there.
Oh, you know what?
God's inside of a brain.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So God's and that's a brain stem and that sort of thing, right? So I mean, that's the study of the human mind that we all have. We all have human minds, but we don't really know how they work, and so, but you can know some parts of it, but then there's that, and then there's other things, mathematics and history, and because history does repeat itself. I mean, so anyway, I've spent years developing these different components of knowledge. That's why you see me going up these rivers and I go off up there, but that's how my mind works. But it's that mind that you're seeing in action as I talk is the one that predicted Strait of Hormuz would be closed by Zionists and blamed on Iran, and it turned out accurate. And predicted Nord Stream would get interrupted, and Groningen would be closed, and screwworms would make it back, and a lot of other things that are coming out true, right? And things that, like the screwworms. And by the way, and this is something Misako and I have talked about quite a lot. You can get a lot of things done when you don't care to take credit for them, right? So we do a lot of things that you never see that are significant, and never take credit for them, right? Because let everybody take the credit, right? That's fine. But there are some things that I want to take credit for, and it's important because you need that credit for credibility, right? So there's a balance between, if you try to take credit for everything, you're wasting everybody's time and your own, and there's a lot of stuff you can't get done. But you do need enough credit to have credibility, right? And by the way, when I do that with my hand, somebody screenshotted that one time. They said that that's some kind of cult symbol or something. I don't know what it is. It's just how my hand goes, right? Actually, and I was like, actually, my hand was broken here, and it was bad. It was. I can't actually close it, right?
You're doing the Masonic gestures, right?
Yeah, but actually,
that's the other pose, right?
Yeah,
like the Napoleon pose.
I shouldn't have done that. Somebody else screenshot it, but and you don't do the thing to the eye and all that. But you see that knuckle, how big it is?
Yeah.
I can't close my hand. That's why it does. I can't close it all the way, right? I actually really badly damaged it in a fight. I used to fight. And so, but the point is, so if you see my hand go like that, that's just how my fingers go. And so it's not some symbol. And maybe they're copying me. So some cult might be copying my, I don't know. I'm a forum leader for some cult. I hope not. But the point is, these when I go off on these my mind does do these things, but that's also the mind that has been able to. My sister came to visit me when I was in the army in Germany. I was in special forces actually there in Bad Tolz, Germany, 10th group, right? And my sister came to visit in 1986. And she wrote in her diary that I told her to go visit the Berlin Wall because it won't be there when you get back, right? Now, at that point, that was just like me normally talking. I wasn't in the business of, like predicting anything, right? And it was, but to me, it was obvious that the Soviet Union was going to fall apart. Now, keep in mind, I was 22, right? 22. And I was just like, and she went to see the wall, and then the wall fell some years later. 3 years later, and everybody, CIA and everybody else is like, we didn't see that coming. Nobody saw this coming. I'm like, hello, McFly, how'd you miss it? I'm 22 when I predicted that. My sister put it in her diary. Actually, I would have forgotten, but my sister reminded me that she'd written in her diary, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that I said go see it. It was just one of those in passing things. But you got to keep in mind, how did I get to the point where I thought that might happen? When I was a Green Beret, I spent 3 years training to parachute into Poland to fight Russians, right? And that training included a lot of, I went to language school for German. I went to language school for Polish. We studied a lot, right? And I would read German papers and all this stuff. And I read a lot of history books. And I'm like, you know what? I think Soviet Union is going to break apart. I think that wall is going to come down. And, it's just, everybody's like, no, Soviet Union, they're not. I'm like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I mean, there's nothing. One thing I learned as a child was the mathematics of little things work the same as the mathematics of big things. Like, those ant lions in Florida, you can take a blade of grass and make a little avalanche, and the little ant lion will suck an ant down. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe not. Anyway, but they make these like little.
I was trying to picture it in my head.
Anyway, as a child, as somebody who was deeply into physics for about 10 years, I would play with those little. They make these cones. Look up ant lion, and you'll see they make these inverted cones like a funnel. It's a funnel, right? Mm-hmm. And if an ant falls in that funnel, it makes the ant can't get out because it makes avalanches, right? And the ant lion, he shoots sand up and makes the ant fall, and then the ant lion pulls the ant underground and eats it, right? That's why they call it an ant lion, right? So I used to play with those things. Are all over Florida. I played with them a lot. When I was a little kid, I would play with those things. And I'm like, at some point, I'm like, you know what? The math on this little avalanche, I think, works as the same as the math of giant avalanches. But I noticed this even since a young age, that big things and little things, there's no difference in probability that a huge thing is going to happen than a small thing's going to happen. There's no difference in probability that the Soviet Union is going to fall apart than that, that restaurant's going to go out of business. You know what I mean? It's like, and so once you come to that realization, just because it's huge, that has nothing to do with whether or not it's going to burn down or fall down or sail off a cliff or grow, right? I mean, so you shouldn't factor in the propaganda, you just factor all that out. Their propaganda, we're the strongest, yada yada yada. Okay, whatever, man. Propaganda, and so any kid who does very serious sports, uh, that is competitive sports actually, and you hear people talk trash, and then you go nose up with them, and you see what they're really made of. That's propaganda when you actually see it hit in action, right? It's like, but countries are the same way. These things scale up fractally, is what I'm getting to. So when predicting something like Nord Stream getting cut, or Groningen getting cut, or global famines, or Soviet Union falling apart, or Strait of Hormuz will get closed, right? Or the Panama Canal could be destroyed, right? Or at least badly damaged. The chances of that happening is not any different than, like the little antlion avalanche versus avalanche off of a giant mountain, right? What I'm getting to is you should factor out the magnitude and just go with the fundamentals. The fundamentals of Trump. None of his MAGA cult people could see through him. Oh, he's daddy. He's a daddy figure, right? That's what cults do. Jason Christoff could probably go on. I noticed when I was studying cults that the people that get into these cults, they're usually looking for a daddy figure, right? Father, right? They want a father figure, and they want other things. And so they just make those promises, right? Trump, daddy's home. Remember, Trump got elected, daddy's home, right? And all this stuff. I'm like, there you go. I mean, there you go. And so, but the point is, but the magnitude of somebody being president and being as corrupt as a drug dealer on the corner, it escapes a lot of people. The magnitude is not relevant. Look at the guy. He is clearly a fraud. He is clearly a criminal. He's clearly a pedophile. He's clearly all those things. It's stunningly obvious. The magnitude is irrelevant. And now he's destroying the United States. If it wasn't for him, of course, some other condom would be doing it, right? So he's a condom for the Zionists, and the Zionists are a condom for something else, right? So he's a condom for a condom, actually.
Yeah, it's I just, I've mentioned it in the past. It blows my mind. A lot of people still believe the kayfabe, and candidly, I would be one of them if I wasn't doing this show. I would still be drinking the Kool-Aid. So I try not to be as judgmental as I'd like to be with them, but I guess we all grow at different stages in life, so to speak. But real quick here, unless I don't want to lose your train of thought. If you wanted
I thought vaccines were important until 2019, and then there was that phase change, 2020-ish, and 2021. I'm like, what's going on here? I'll never take another one. And why am I so late to the game, right? I feel like I was extremely late to the realization that those are incredibly insane to put into you, right? And I got some in 2019 when I was about to go back to India, right? Because I was going to India to do research on cult stuff, actually. And then stuff happened in Hong Kong, and I ended up in Hong Kong, and then came the pandemic. And then finally I'm like, wait a minute, these vaccines, they're not vaccines. But people have been saying that since the 1800s. I mean, there was huge knockdown, drag out wars in Great Britain and the United States in the 1800s about smallpox and other crap. You should see some of the books I've got on that. I mean, from the 1800s.
Yeah, it's amazing, and the ability to use disease as a form of warfare is ancient, of course. I mean, it's fascinating. Real quick here, I wanted to address a question from Benevolent Kings. They ask, the globalist shills keep fear-mongering Putin will attack Poland. I think that is the last country in Europe he would invade given the history and NATO. What does Michael think?
That's an interesting question. Attack Poland? Yes, I can easily see that. Now, keep in mind, there's another. We were talking about plumbing earlier, which is this is a good moment to evoke that again, or invoke that in this case. The idea that there's another plumbing level going on that's not nation state. It's not Russia versus Poland or Russia versus Ukraine and Iran versus there's clearly another level. Now, how that works, I haven't sorted out. I'm trying, and you're working on it too. I mean, Christian, you talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
How does this schematic actually work out? And it's dynamic, so we can figure it out instantaneously. But 3 years from now, it could be quite different, right? Because things that happen. But now, would it be wise for Putin, or let's say Russia, to invade Western Europe? It'd be about as wise as America invading Iran. It would be that level of stupid, unless you had a different goal, right? If your goal is to destroy Russia, of course you'll do it. If your goal is to destroy Russia and Ukraine, you're going to do exactly what they're doing, right? And if Putin and Zelensky and others are actually in another level of secret club together, which is there's a significant possibility of this. It's not 50-50. I would say it's at least 51-49 that they are actually. And I mean, actually maybe higher chance than that, because you see a lot of the things don't make sense even from the standpoint of incompetence. And because they are very orchestrated. Like, how was I able to predict Strait of Hormuz would be closed and that Zionists want to keep it closed and blame Iran? That's exactly what's happening. And Iran is clearly dancing. And this is not, there's more to it. You can sense it. You can see little pieces of it here and there poking out behind the curtain. This is not the way it's advertised. It's not just Iran versus Israel. Although I think the Israel that we know likely won't survive this. The Israel that we know. It doesn't mean the Zionists want to give up the land of Israel, but a lot of the Israelis are in their way too. A lot of the Israelis are in the way of the Zionists, right? And a lot of the Israelis they don't want, and they'll kill them just as fast as anybody else. And they did jab them, and they are drugged up.
And they killed them during October 7th, et cetera. And I'm of the same opinion too, because you hear a lot of people say it is the tiny hats, and I feel like there is error in saying that, because it just makes a very blanket statement when it is a very tiny group that uses them as a condom, in a sense. I guess I'm using that analogy now, but they are effectively using them to receive the blows, the attention, the animus, the vitriol, what have you, of society. When it's a tiny group that, this again, I'm hearing this from people, Sabbatine Frankist element. I have other people on the show that say, no, it's another group. I don't know. This is what I'm just sharing with you what I hear. And then these other secret societies, Jesuits, et cetera.
Right. And the Jews definitely are also used as a punching bag too. There's no question about it in some cases, but it's complex, because a lot of those are the predators and often are the victims. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, there's no cut and dry thing. It's a color wheel, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And then I wanted to share my thoughts, because that person asked pertaining to Putin. I personally think, this is my current iteration, subject to change, but my current iteration is that I think at the very top, it is literally stage. I mean, they've literally said, Mossad said and I'm not saying Mossad is at the top by me saying this. I'm just using this as an example here, as a reference point. Mossad, one of the guys it was a 60 Minutes interview. He literally said, we are the directors, we're the actors, we set the stage, we're the producers, blah, blah, blah. And I look at that as kind of an analogy of how with these secret societies run things, where it is literally stage. So I look at it as, and some people may think, well, who are you, Christian White, to be espousing these takes on it? What's your credentials or whatever? That's fair. That's fair. But I'll say, given the research that I've done and hearing different people, I think that you have it where the transnationalists, for lack of a better term, they're orchestrating it, and then everyone below it, they don't realize it's kayfabe. They believe it's real. So for example, in my opinion, the people that are in middle management and below in Iran genuinely believe they are at blows with the West, et cetera. And this is a life or death civilizational fill in the blank, but they don't realize that that fat forces way above are directing things in such a way to induce such conditions. And the same thing over in the West. And so I think Putin and all these people, I do see it as collective at the very top. And I might sound, cuckoo to some people, but that is where as I always like to say, the breadcrumbs have led me is to that. And so that's my take on it. So
Yeah, there's clearly some other architecture. The question is, and are there more than one? Probably, because
yeah,
because humans will naturally break off when they reach a certain mass. Like when a village is 200 people, 400 people, it'll often break off to another village, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's people have a partial pressure like molecules, right?
for sure. Wanted to address a question from just a name 03, what, fill in the blank. The question is, please ask him what year he woke up to 9/11.
Me?
Yeah.
When it first happened, I thought it was legit. I thought it was Al Qaeda, and it was slow actually. And some of those things, some things I've been very fast on. Other things I've been slower on, like the slow kid in the course. Like I didn't see through the jabs until like 2020, 2021ish. By 2021, definitely saw through it. But 2019, I thought vaccines were still important. But my mind was open to things. That's clear. I just wasn't didn't. But so the question is 9/11. I don't actually know because it was a slow. It was over time. I started to question things. Like this doesn't make sense, and people are like, look closely at the and I'm like, wow, it does look like explosives, right? Yeah, it really does. I mean, that's my eyes seeing that, and unless somebody's messed with that film, and I had no reason to think that they had, and a lot of other things just are not right. And then also when you put that into context of that is normal operation, Pearl Harbor as an example was clear, obvious setup. It was a real attack, but it was just a naked setup. Al Johnson and I did a podcast on it the other day on his Substack, Historical Detective Agency, on Al Johnson. We've studied this stuff for years, different stuff, but like Pearl Harbor, USS Liberty, many other things. This is normal. False flags are normal day-to-day business. Actually, they're not exotic. They're just normal war. Grant was talking about it in the 1840s or so when we said we're trying to get the Mexicans to attack us. We're trying to provoke them to attack us. And so that's what on October 7th, that was, I could see through that in minutes. I mean, once you reach an escape velocity of like, there is no limit. One of the things that made me hesitant to go with 9/11 being fake is I didn't actually realize yet that our government was that actual captured and bad and evil. I did not realize that. But once you reach that point, all the rest is easy. Then you're like, oh yeah, the death jabs, that's the depopulation. That's obvious. It's the thing that was stopping it from being obvious is I didn't realize the government was that deeply captured and that predatory towards us.
Oh, I've lost complete faith in government. I sound like some wacko, like out of, I don't know, some caricature people make of people, but I have absolutely zero faith. I think at the baseline, the worker bees, middle management, I think there's inherently good people, obviously, in the bureaucracy, and they think they're doing genuinely good stuff, but they don't really, just like the Manhattan Project, right? I mean, you might be assigned a role, but you don't understand how it all fits together. You get some isolated piece in your what's a silo, and you're working on it, but you don't realize what the true nature of it is. So yeah, I think and I listened to Ted Gunderson, and I believe the guy.
Keep in mind, the only reason that we wake up, and we wake up at different parts, like, some people woke up on the jab. My wife, Masako, she was born in a Seventh-day Adventist hospital in Japan because her parents didn't want her to get jabs, right? And so they saw it back then, as did many others. Many people saw this in the 1800s. I mean, a lot. It wasn't a little bit. It was a huge movement in Great Britain and the United States not to take vaccines, right? It was huge. It was very vibrant too, and sometimes violent. But the point is, they saw it, and so we have to help each other wake up. Those who are willing to see different evidence and honestly examine it, those are gold standard people, right? That can be persuaded with actual evidence that's, that can be backed up. The evidence is like hard evidence. This is like, like it's clear that 9/11 was some kind of inside job, right?
So
And yeah,
sorry,
go
no,
ahead.
absolutely. So that ties in with the next question, but please continue that. I know I kind of cut you off, and then I'll.
But I had to have people waking me up. There had it kept knock 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 on the door. Sometimes I'm going knock knock, wake up, McFly. But I've been McFly too. You know what I mean? So it's not. Sometimes people are knocking on my door. Don't you see? 9/11 was an inside job, and after a period of time, I'm like, yeah, actually, especially when you look at the floors and the explosions and then there was, and eventually, more evidence comes to light, and yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's obviously, and that means that our government didn't do any. And look at also the spraying of the chemicals that Dane Wigington's always talking about is very real. And some people say, weather weapons are fake. That's not fake. That's as real as it gets. That's as real as those clouds out my window. It's very real. Yeah, I mean, not that those clouds. This is a typhoon stuff, but I mean, but what I'm getting to is that they're extremely real. Now the question is, we don't always know what's just Mother Nature doing Mother Nature stuff, and what's somebody out there actually getting and shooting maybe lasers from space and starting fires or something, right?
Sure.
Or lasers from airplanes. It doesn't have to be from space, right? It can be lasers from the ground. It can be IR lasers and things that way there's no, you can set fires from, you can be up in a little Cessna airplane with some powerful laser or something, doing this sort of stuff.
I mean, just like the voice to, I've touched on this with others, the voice to skull technology, the ability to send frequencies that can induce diseases, give heart attacks. I had,
you were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
I was talking about just the other day.
Yeah. I had Mike Harris. I don't know if you're acquainted with him. He's behind Veterans Today. You did. I introduced you guys. That's right. So you guys have connected. Yeah. And he shared it with me how he used to frequent another gentleman's show on Rumble, and that gentleman went to Russia, and then he came back later. 2 weeks later, he was dead.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So I know they have technology to induce heart attacks and all sorts of things. And then what else was I going to comment on? Yeah, I just think about how much am I under mind control, and I'm not aware of it. For example, like when I go to the gym, I don't wear the AirPods anymore, the Bluetooth, headphones, because I've realized it's not the best for you. So now I wear wired ones. And
I don't wear them either. I have them and I don't wear them.
Yeah.
They're just here. They're good for using as trackers, though. You can throw them in a bag.
And by the way, I think all these companies, Apple, Microsoft, all of them, they need to be completely divested. All the resources that they have, everything Gates owns, everything that Bill Gates owns should be completely put into a trust to satisfy anyone vaccine injured. All these people should be completely stripped of all their assets immediately. And there should be a full-on tribunal. This will never happen because this is fantasy land. And then let the crowd do what they did to Gaddafi, which is messed up what they did to Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was not the criminal they made him out to be. But like Mussolini, feed him to the crowd. Fauci,
yeah, I would not go further with that conversation. But look at how the Fauci fooled him crowd with the orange fungus cult, right? So many people are like, well, Fauci fooled him with Trump. Well, Fauci didn't fool him with what's coming next, right? With the other ones that are coming out now, right? The new jabs, right? Fauci didn't fool him. That doesn't fit the fact pattern, right? It doesn't fit the fact pattern. Trump pushes cannabis. Trump pushes gambling. He's a casino guy, right? He pushes all the sorts of things that basically pillage families, right? And it's just a big joke to him. Yeah, you got your freedom. I wouldn't take anything that he pushes. Anything. Remember, you got your ivermectin, you got your HCQ, right? And you got to think this through now at this point. Why is he pushing us towards that? Because that guy doesn't do anything in our best interest. Nothing, right? That guy's a predator. Predators do predator stuff, right? You got to think, that could be just another area ambush. You got your ivermectin, you got your HCQ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Minefield.
Question I have from an audience member, unless you wanted to continue on with that thread. This is from UEBX8. Do you think the government will eventually force buy everyone who has gold like FDR did?
What was it? Where was it?
Question was basically, is the government going to do what FDR did with the gold confiscation?
Oh, I would imagine. I mean, I could easily see that happening. Yeah. In fact, I mean, again, it happened before, and if it happened before, the chances of it happening again are pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
And the government's even, I think, even more predatory towards us now than it was then. And it was pretty predatory. And by the way, anybody that has young people in their family, or everybody should stand up against any draft. That's war slavery, and that will be only used to kill Americans off and force foreigners into our uniforms to create a foreign army out of American uniforms. They'll have our helicopters. They'll have our artillery pieces. You know what they can do from our artillery pieces, from our bases? I mean, it's unbelievable what can be done without ever leaving the base. I mean, they can ravage the United States with our military. It's unbelievable how powerful the military is, especially if it's hitting especially if you unleash Planet of the Apes on the United States, basically by stuffing a bunch of people that came through the Darien Gap into American uniforms and teach them to hate Americans, and you can keep what you get. You know, hey, all the Americans have gold. All the white people have gold. Go get it. You know, just beat it out of them. They'll tell you where it's hidden. Yeah, look what'll happen. They'll torture every single person and try and get everything you've got. Right. This is the way stuff is headed. This is not a joke. This is deadly serious, and continuing to support people like Orange Fungus and whoever comes next that is clearly, obviously not in our favor. If they're on the Zionist side even a little bit, they're all the way in. There's no such thing as a little bit on the Zionist side, right? It's just not. I mean, those people are murdering massive numbers of people and working very hard, diligently to destroy the United States.
Well, they've done a wonderful job at it. They've done a completely great job at it. You know, I just not that I've figured it out or have had quote unquote made it, but it's interesting to just see a lot of people who are further on down the road than myself in age, and a lot of people have just really checked out. And I you know, I'm not necessarily a Ben Franklin guy, but you know, I think I shared with you last time. Yeah, some people, you know, die at 25 and they're buried at 75. You know, I feel like a lot of people are on a conveyor belt. I think if people had more idle time on their hands, for better or for worse, some might argue, you know, I feel like when you have time on your hands, you're able to just ideate more, right? You're able to just think and go down rabbit holes and research things. And I think literally sports, entertainment, media is the only thing keeping this thing, as in society, from going completely berserk. Because it's funny, like people will fawn over the World Cup. I'm not knocking soccer or sports. I'll just say sports in general, or it's not just sports. It could be anything. But there's no energy to, wow, you're literally run by pedophiles who are trafficking human beings.
Right.
You can't make this shit
super
up.
Openly.
It's fucking nuts.
Super openly.
I share this with people, everybody I know. Literally, we are run by pedophiles who are involved in satanic cults. Now, I don't frame it that way because you'll spook people, of course, and they'll think you're a quack or whatever. So I have to couch it in a.
But it's true. It's actually objectively true.
It's crazy to me. And then they fawn over a lot of these celebrities, you know, musicians, actors. Geez, they just fawn over them. You know, I used to live in Southern California. I mean, that's like ground zero. And I mean, some of these, just you go on Instagram. I was like, you guys have no effing clue who these people are. You have no effing clue. You guys are totally naive. And a lot of these people who made it big, there's a guy where I'm at, he's, I guess, pretty wealthy or whatever. I don't know him personally, but he made some comment that he was acquainted with Ted Turner or something. And I'm thinking in my head, like, dude, you don't even know who the hell Ted Turner was. He is not the guy that he is made out to be. A lot of these people, these people are part of the club because they acquiesce something. There was some exchange that happened. And I just find it so funny that people will go their whole life completely clueless. I don't know.
The idea of selling souls is clearly real. The idea of selling souls is clearly real. I mean, look at Doper Joe Rogan. That guy's smart enough to know that what you're doing is pushing dope on millions of young people, and you're doing it anyway, right? I mean, that's straight up. There's nothing there's nothing to be redeemed from that. You know, and the dope head rocket guy. Is that guy really running all those companies? Have you ever seen a
Hell
dope
no.
head that's that high functioning? It's just, you know, it has
Him and
all
the whole
these time
family.
to do all these podcasts.
Him and
Yeah,
the whole
so you got
family.
time for all these. Yeah, he's clearly an influencer because everything he does is always in the news, Twitter and all this stuff. Ain't nobody got time to run all these companies or even one company. You don't have time to run a family restaurant and do all, and I mean that seriously. I mean that very seriously. You don't have time to run a family restaurant and be on Twitter all the time and run and go on all these podcasts and stuff. You could not successfully run a family restaurant and do all those podcasts. It's just too time consuming, much less going to put people on Mars. Space chips, going to put brain chips in your brain. Listen, the guy, the dope head, Elon Musk, which he brags about his dope problem. He literally brags about it. That guy pushed the death jab openly. Yep. He openly pushed it, and then he said he took it, right? He couldn't get to his gigafactory in Germany without taking it. That's one of the things he said. Meanwhile, Masako and I were running all over Germany, and we didn't take it. We were over at BASF twice, the big factory in Ludwigshafen, Germany. We were all over the place. We were all over Europe. We're Netherlands, Belgium, so many countries. Austria. We were going all over the Czech Republic and Slovakia, right? Hungary. We were just going all over the place, and a lot more. And we never took it. But the guy that wants to put brain chips in us and who runs multi-billion-dollar gigafactories and said, yeah, we can build Tesla cars, boring company, put people on Mars, take our brain chip. You know, that guy can't figure out how to get to his gigafactory when he's got rocket ships and his own jets and stuff, right? But we just came in commercial and did it. You know, we just came in on a normal airliner, didn't take the jabs, but he couldn't get. He's not that guy. He is not that brilliant guy. He is a dope head, and he sold his soul.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, for sure. I'm sure he's under the whole the mind control thing because all the bloodline families, but anyone who's got any vestige of the bloodline, they put their kids through it, where they will sodomize them. They'll go, and I say this stuff a lot, so I probably should stop talking about it. But yeah, they do all the rituals, and then you either let me adjust the mic here. Then you either are accepted into the cult, or they might dispatch you, or somehow you break free, which some people have. And no, so he's definitely under. It's like a cyborg or whatever. And his history, and his mother is not who is portrayed to be, and the grandfather and the whole family, they're tied with transhumanism, going back to the or technocracy or whatever, going back to the 1930s. A lot of people don't know that stuff. There's actually a great clip. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, Reality Revolt. Here, I might bring it up here real quick to share. Let me pull this up. Oh, here we go. Oh, let me share this with you. You'll get a kick out of this here. How are you on time, by the way? I don't think I asked you.
I'm fine.
Right. Okay.
No,
cool. I'm good too. I'm having a lot of fun. The time's flying by. I trust the audiences as well.
Wow, it's 2 hours already. It seems like 30 minutes. That's amazing.
Oh yeah.
I didn't look at the clock. I was like, 30 or 45 minutes. We've been going for a while. It's 2 hours and 7 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. Someone asked me here, speaking truth. She said, Christian White, Trump isn't a satanic member, but he's a pedophile. Well, I'd have to beg to differ. I do think anybody is. See the video interview I did with Max Sloan. She covers this, but
you keep mentioning her. I gotta her video. I opened it, but I haven't been able to watch it yet because we were with the midwife all day yesterday.
For sure, no.
But it's open.
No
I have a tab up there on my upper left here to watch.
For sure, I'm gonna share my screen here. Here's okay. Can you guys see that? Can everyone see that in the chat, or at least you can, Michael? I think right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is some people have seen this tuning in. I don't know if you have. He's a French guy. I wish I spoke French because I'd like to interview him.
I watched him talking one time, and I remember going, that guy's nailing it. Yeah. What was his name though?
I forgot his name, but anyhow, so this is. I'll just share this real quick for you in the audience here. I usually do it on 2 times speed here, just because I'm and still 1.5.
Oui, les célébrités sont sataniques, mais il ne faut pas mettre à l'écart des personnalités comme Elon Musk, qui a un baphomet en photo profil. Parce qu'au final, le satanisme, c'est l'aspect religieux du transhumanisme, qui vise à fusionner l'homme avec la machine, pour nous contrôler entièrement. Vous pensez qu'Elon est un génie, qui va faire de vous des super-humains? Non, non, vous allez devenir des sous-humains, parce que son projet vise à vous déshumaniser, en faisant passer ça pour du progrès technologique. Donc vous n'allez pas vivre sur Mars, et il n'y a aucune voiture dans l'espace. En revanche, il va bien vous enfoncer une puce dans le crâne.
A chip in your brain to control your mind. Yeah.
Jetez un œil à sa mère et vous comprendrez leur intention. Vous allez finir sur un disque dur, comme nous dit sa copine Grims, dans les paroles de ses chansons. La simulation est l'avenir. Bébé, branche-toi, télécharge ton esprit. Vous faire capituler, prêter allégeance. L'IA régnera. Bref, soumettez-vous à l'intelligence artificielle. Oui, les célébrités sont...
You can't make this shit up.
Gap theory.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
I mean that's as evil as it gets. They're right in your face with it. But the gap. Somebody mentioned gap theory, and then who was that? Sorry, but the gap. I mean, there's clearly gaps in our knowledge that are massive, and I don't know what the extent of it is, and it's clear that this is something's wrong. We can clearly see that there's something. There was clearly people making very serious stuff in the old days that is not made anymore, right? And then there's just there's at least one massive gap. There's got to be more. I say there's got to be more. I don't know, but there's a minimum one, but I don't know the extent of it.
Mm-hmm. I love
that was highly satanic. Somebody said that's highly satanic. It is. I mean, it's sickening.
Well, the Ariana Grande, which you see so much about, you see her everywhere. You see her covered in blood, and then a couple days later, they had that Perez Hilton guy. I had never previously heard of the guy, but he is cutting himself. I shared this on another episode.
Ariana Grande, she's a singer, right?
She's I think she started off on Nickelodeon, so doing kids show, and then transitioned to music at some point, and now I guess she's in a lot of these films. She's in that Wicked film or whatever. I've never seen it, but both of them look like, I mean, witches basically. So.
Ants. Okay, music. We should, and ants, right? Music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like vaccine, which is clearly there's no. These things aren't vaccines; they're death jabs, right? And this music, the stuff we call music, the stuff I grew up liking and listening to, and we would listen to it loud. Now I go back, and it's not just the lyrics. I call it ants now, acoustic neurotoxins. I mean, it's not music. We just call it music. It's literally, you mix that so-called music, the ants, acoustic neurotoxin, with intoxicants, and you've got the ultimate. I mean, where's Jason? Where's Jason Christoff when we need him? You mix that ants, you mix the music with the intoxicants, that's rocket fuel. That's rocket fuel right there.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I find myself more and more not really listening to contemporary music. I actually listen to a lot of classical music, more so than I did previously. Plus it just sounds better on the ears, I feel like, in some ways. You know who did a really good one on music is that Seth Holhouse. I think that's his last name. Have you interviewed him?
He's a very smart guy, Seth Holhouse. Yeah.
He's on the money.
What did he say about music?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was one he just released on like Jimi Hendrix and all these other rock people or whatever. Yeah,
I need to find it and watch it because Seth. Yeah, I've gone Man in America. Seth Holhouse on music. Okay, I'm gonna find it then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good. He's had Max. I know I keep bringing up her. I'm not paid by any. I don't receive a penny from any of these people. I'm just sharing it. I'm sharing this, and I'm also thinking of who else. What are some interesting things that I've been reading about? There was something else I was going to share. That was a reference here.
Let me say something about that. Jason mentioned Jason Christoff. He mentioned Jones Plantation, and that is an incredible movie. And Jason was like, how incredible it was. So as soon as I saw that, I sent your link over to the producer.
Oh yeah,
Andrew Trigley. I sent it to him yesterday, and he goes, "Oh yeah," and because they didn't. Anyway, that movie, The Jones Plantation, is another masterpiece, and it's funny because the whole budget for The Jones Plantation is probably not enough to buy a used car, and it's one of the most brilliant movies out there. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like it's worth a lot more than one of those $40 or $50 million movies, and it's probably $40,000 or $50,000. If you haven't watched The Jones Plantation, you got to watch it. It's really important. Yeah.
Well, yes, absolutely. You recommended that I speak with him and Christoph. So thank you, Michael, for making that happen as far as the introductions go. And I reached out to Al Johnson, so we'll be setting something up here end of summer to connect with him. So thank you for making that happen. I wanted here's a quote.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to share a quote. I know I'm kind of jumping around everybody here with stuff, maybe somewhat, but this is a quote pertaining to my thesis on secret societies, which we don't hear from any of these CIA former Navy SEAL people. Why don't they ever touch about that stuff? I don't get it. They talk about, and go off on a tangent here. They don't touch on that. SRA, MK Ultra, gematria, numerology. I'd love to hear them talk about it. They don't talk about it. Anyhow, this was from the Marquis de Lafayette. It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Jesuits. For they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty. They have instigated most of the wars of Europe. I've got another quote. This is from Lincoln. The war, in reference to the American Civil War, would have never happened were it not possible for the sinister influence of the Jesuits. And then there is, who else wrote? Is there Napoleon? I think I've got a quote. I've got a quote from Hitler. This is a quote from Hitler. Above all, I have learned from the Jesuits, so did Lenin too, as far as I recall. The world has never known anything quite so splendid as the hierarchical structure of the Roman Catholic Church. I'm not anti-Catholic. I was raised Catholic, so I'm throwing that out there to any naysayers. There were quite a few things I simply appropriated from the Jesuits for the use of the Nazi Party. Anyhow, I just want to share that. That was from earlier. I couldn't find it in the book in time. So
it's interesting because I just started really studying more on the Jesuits just a few years ago. And again, I feel like I'm late to the game on that because especially since like special forces, what I was in seems to be like modeled on Jesuits. It's like the Jesuits. I mean, in a sense, it would be a sub wing of it if it were. But anyway, I think a very few Green Berets who had studied the Jesuits would see that, but most would be, what are you talking about? I think, but and if you had said that to me just 10 years ago, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But the point is the Jesuits, man, they were very serious people and remain so. Misako and I, we talked with a Jesuit priest down in Nagasaki about 8 months ago, maybe. He let us into the private library. And so we were down there researching stuff, because Nagasaki was the biggest Catholic. They had the biggest Catholic cathedral in this part of Asia, and it got nuked. It was nuked in Nagasaki when that atomic bomb went off, right? It actually hit that. It went off like the hypocenter was maybe 700 meters away. I don't recall. It was very close. But and actually, so the church was destroyed. And actually, they say one of the bells is still up there. I tried to get them to let us go up and see the bell, but they wouldn't let us go up. But the point is, because it's, But anyway, why did that atomic bomb go off almost right on top of that Catholic church? Isn't that interesting? In Nagasaki, and that was the biggest Catholic center in this part of Asia at that time. Keep in mind, the Jesuits, when they formed in the 1500s, right? One of the first places they really started setting up hard shop was right here in Japan. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating stuff. Again, I'll repeat. I'll have to send this to you. I'll send. This is an excellent, just a primer. This is excellent. I don't hear any of these people talk about this stuff. Why is that? I don't hear anybody talk about it. Don't hear anybody talk about it. They talk about all the other stuff. They don't talk about this stuff. I think this stuff is more important than the other stuff.
It's very clear that they're doing. I mean, I hear people talking about child sacrifice and that sort of thing all the time, but there's no general knowledge of the architecture and plumbing, or say the schematic of how these things are working. That's what's lacking, because people do talk about it.
I'm going to introduce you to some people. I'll introduce you to everyone I know on this topic, which I think is criminally underrated. And we shall,
because it's quite real, and it needs to be. Once you've identified the structures, it might be easier to deal with it, right? I mean, obviously it could be.
I'm going to share with you here. Here, we might have some questions here from people here. Somebody asked, someone asked your take on the moon landing and something of that nature. What's your take on that for that audience member?
Oh, up until like 5 years ago, I thought, of course we landed on the moon. But then I'm starting from scratch. After what we've seen in the revelations of the last, just when they finally took the mask off, in the last, since 2020, and keep in mind, as a photographer, I've shot some of the most famous photos of the Iraq War and the Afghan War. I'm professional photographer. Right? I can do incredible photography, and you should see some of my nighttime photography from the wars. It's pretty intense, and some of my nighttime photography in the wars has huge amounts of stars in them. And so when I do one of the things that's quite simple. Okay, let's look at the Trump assassination, from moon landing to Afghanistan to Trump assassination. That's how my mind works. So Trump assassination, fake assassination thing.
Yes.
You see that bullet trace. You see the bullet trace, right? Mm-hmm. And that camera and lens, I took it downstairs last night. I've got that camera and lens. It's downstairs now. But it's a Sony Alpha 1 with a 24 millimeter lens, right? I've got that. I've taken thousands and thousands of shots, photos in actual combat, not war, but combat, right? I spent a lot of time in war, and I spent a huge amount of time in combat. Combat and war are not exactly the same thing, but and so I've never seen a photo with a bullet trace. Remember that bullet trace, allegedly that hit his ear and then the bullets going by? And keep in mind, bank tellers, they don't know what all the counterfeits feel like. They know what the real feels like. And then if it doesn't feel real, it's counterfeit, right? So there can be 10,000 types of counterfeit. They don't need to know what they all feel like. They just need to know what one real feels like, right? And so when I saw that photo, as somebody who is a professional photographer, especially combat, you've not met somebody that's done more combat photography than I have. There's nobody alive to my knowledge that has. If they are, I'd like to know who they are, because they would have a huge amount of photography work that would be published and it would be easy to see. And they don't seem to exist. And so what I'm getting to is I was also a special forces weapons specialist, right? And I've also, you can see in some of my combat photography, I'm like right beside snipers shooting through the scope. He like moves out of the way and I shoot through the scope and he takes the shot. That's outgoing, incoming, stuff like that for years, right? I was a special forces weapons specialist. I'm a professional photographer. I know the whole situation here. I've got the knowledge stack to look at that photo and say, that's bullshit. Like instantly, like the teller that's been a bank teller for 40 years. Going, hey, that's made out of, it's not money, whatever it is. That bullet trace, that's not real. That's definitely fake, right? And I immediately was saying he needs to release the raw files. The raw files, I shoot all my photos on raw. Raw are much harder to manipulate, and all professionals are going to shoot on raw. If somebody's just shooting on JPEG and they're saying that they're a professional, they be lying, right? Especially in a situation like that. And so when I looked at that photo, I'm like, that's fake. And so then people were going out to ranges and trying to replicate it, going, no, you're wrong. Master Trump would never do something like, yeah, he would. And they're like, are you saying he didn't get shot in the ear? I'm saying, I'm not saying anything, but that photo is bullshit, right? Yeah. I'm not saying anything else. That is bullshit. Mm-hmm. All else, I don't know. That's not real, right? And nobody's been able to replicate it. And all the huge amounts of photography and wars around the world, massive amounts of photography and police shootouts and people at the range and all this stuff. Nobody's ever got a photo like that. Nobody, right? Nobody. And I went to a Texas range with some friends and we were shooting a lot of rounds trying to get photos like that. And I got the right camera, the right lens, the whole thing. I can't get it, right? So nobody's got a photo like that, but they masterfully got it that time, right? Obviously fake, obviously bullshit. I mean, that is it. And yet when you bring that up, people are like, are you saying nobody got killed? Non sequitur, brother. Non sequitur. That photo is fake. At least it was photoshopped, right? I mean, the photo itself could be real, but that part was faked. And now that doesn't mean somebody didn't get killed. That doesn't have anything to do with that. These people will kill 10,000 people as a movie set. And I mean really dead. We're talking about people that will murder millions of people with death jabs. We're talking about people that'll run jets into buildings or whatever happened and blow the buildings up, right? We're talking about people that won't. There you go. Not that one, but it's the one.
This one.
Not one of those.
Nope. This one.
No.
Well, I was thinking of the Trump. I was just tying
look where he's standing at the podium. And I mean, that's fake too. Look at that. He's all pump.
No,
Nobody's pushing him down.
These are.
I mean, seriously.
Kayfabe here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there it is. Okay, the one. Okay, on the where it's got Trump at the podium, right?
Trump at right here.
Click on that one. If that's.
Is that it?
Does it have a bullet trace on the right side? I can't see it on the screen.
It's hard.
But it's one when he's at the podium, and it would be either just before that or.
Let me type in.
And there's a bullet trace. You know, Brett Weinstein called me up about it, and you know he's a photographer. There it is. See the bullet trace? It's circled. It's circled.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I was the first one calling that out. I called it out immediately. I saw that, and I'm like, that's bullshit. Right.
Oh my gosh.
You can't even make it up. And so many people are like, don't you understand? I'm like, you need to just go back to the couch, go to the range, get 10,000 rounds, get a bunch of cameras, and shoot all the photos you want and see if you catch one like that. You know what I mean? And nobody's been able to catch one. A bunch of his supporters are like, we'll prove you wrong, and I'm pleased do. I can't wait. And if you do, I'll admit that. But what I will then do is say, well, let me fly out and go with you, and we'll shoot that together because I want to see if you're lying to me because I won't take your word for it either, right? So, but what we would need to do is before I jump on an airplane, I'm going to bet you a bunch of money, and we're going to have to put it in escrow because I'm not going to waste my time going and meet a bunch of clowns, right? You're going to have actually done it. I'm going to have to think that you actually have something, and then you're going to have to put money on the table. If we can't recreate it when I'm there, I want my money, right? So, you know, that way you're making it real, right? You know, I always like to make things real, like when people will say, Formosa, Taiwan used to be part of China, you know, and I bet some academics one day, 3 of them, they never aired it. I said, I'll bet you. They're like, no, don't you? And they're trying to do you're the dumb American thing again. I'm like, okay, let's just skip past all that. Let's get to the point where I'm betting you $10,000. Let's get to that point. And that shut them. I said, actually, let's change, not $10,000. Let's make it really real. 2 ounces of gold, right? Let's bet 2 ounces of gold that you won't be able to prove that Taiwan/Formosa was ever part of China. And they never aired it. Because, you know, when you just get real about it, like, go ahead, take the photo. And if you can persuade me that I think you might have something, you're going to have to put like, I don't know, $25,000 in escrow. We'll get an attorney. They hold it in escrow and we'll go out to your range and we'll spend a few hours and you get one of the photos. You can get out there with a machine gun, shoot as many rounds as you want. We'll shoot 100,000 photos and we're going to see if you get a photo like that. If you do, you're right. If you're wrong, I get you $25,000. Let's do it. Let's roll.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And that freezes people in the tracks when you're like, let's shut up playing and let's lock in. Let's go. Let's rock 'em, sock 'em, right? And they never take the bet. If I'm betting you something, you should probably not take the bet. Because I don't gamble. I've gambled with my life a lot, but I don't gamble with my money, and I don't gamble with my time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, as it relates to the Trump shooting, somebody made the comment. Anthion's eyes made the comment. He said, "Look at the famous image of the raising flag over Iwo Jima. That's what the stage shows you." There. Well, there was another comment he or someone else made pertaining to, you know, the iconic Trump shooting in Iwo Jima, you know, flags of our father kind of thing, and the ML, you know, the programming there. Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm looking at these other questions here real quick. Someone said, Charlie, this is from Mark Cunningham, Charlie Kirk never got shot in the neck. What's your take on that?
They said it was a 30-06, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Anybody that knows anything about rifles and deer hunting or bear hunting or people hunting, okay, their instant answer is going to be bullshit. right? So there is no chance that that was a 30-06. Zero. Zero chance that his spinal cord deflected a 30-06 round, right? Not from a actual full load round, right? And there's no chance that would have blown his spinal cord right out the back of his neck, right? No chance. It would barely deflect, right? And if at all, that would be noticeable. Maybe it would make it tumble or whatever, but that doesn't matter. He's dead. But the point is, there's a concept called falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus, right? If one thing is false, the rest of it's false. I think the British don't use that in their court system, but I think in some situations that's a truthful statement that's used. That's a concept that's used in American courtrooms, right? So and often that's the way I will try to find something. I'm going to look for something that if this is false, then everything's false, right? Like here's a situation. Like somebody says, Jimmy did X in Los Angeles on 15th of June, 2026. So, but I can prove that Jimmy was actually in Berlin that day. So that's falsus in uno. Whatever they said that he did in Los Angeles is false because he was in Berlin, right? So that's a falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus, right? So, I mean, when you see a lot of these situations are like that. If we see, or if you, in a looser sense, if you see that there's clear fakery going on, at that point you need to realize that it's a stage, right? Like that bullet shot is clear. That fake bullet shot is clearly fake. It's obviously fake. Nobody's been able to replicate it. And it's just, I know that camera extremely well. I mean, I've practically worn that camera out. I've got 3 of them like that. I don't have that camera. I have 3 of them like that. Sony Alpha 1s, right? So I got 1 Sony Alpha 1 and 2 Sony Alpha 1 Model 2s, right? I'm extremely familiar with that camera and that lens. And I'm extremely familiar with combat photography and weapons. It just didn't happen. That was a stage. And everything that they do is a stage. That's all they do is stage things. I mean, it doesn't mean real things don't happen, but like what's happening now at the Strait of Hormuz, that's a stage. That's a stage. I published on my Substack on July 3rd. It was July 3rd, 2025. So more than a year ago, I published on my Substack that something like I would not be surprised if Zionists close the Strait of Hormuz and blame it on Iran. So that was more than a year ago that I said, and it's closed, and they're doing exactly. Just look what I published. It's on the top of my Substack. I think it's pinned there, right? It might be pinned there. Mm-hmm. So I mean, how did I get that right? Because we know what they're doing. We know we know. That's how we predicted screwworms and that sort of thing, and Nord Stream getting blown up, and Groningen being closed, and so many things. So many just home run after home run after home run, and you have a hard time finding where I get things wrong because I'm extremely careful. I filter out a lot of stuff that I don't say. Now here's an example. I sense that you'll end up with a war between Argentina and Brazil. Now I don't know that it's going to happen, but and I don't see anybody else making that opinion. Nobody, right? So, and I've been saying it for a while. I think we're going to end up seeing a war between Argentina and Brazil. I have no real evidence of that, actually. Zero. It's just that I know, if you tie a dog to a tree next to a lake in Winter Haven, Florida, where I'm from, a gator's going to get your dog. It just will. It will. If that dog's out there barking, a gator will swim across the entire lake and get your dog. And that's just how this stuff goes, right? And when I'm watching what's happening with the Zionists versus China, that Zionist gator is going to swim over there and go to war with Brazil. Why? Because China gets a lot of their food from Brazil, right? A lot. So that's part of the reason. And so I think, and also China has more influence with Brazil than the Zionists do. The Brazil doesn't like the Zionists. Brazil is deep with the Chinese Communist Party. And Chinese Communist Party is building a bioceanic corridor between Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and Chile, right? And so Misako and I actually went to Argentina looking at this. We actually got on this little train that the Chinese already built and that sort of thing. So, I mean, they're building that bioceanic corridor, which will allow them to bypass Panama. And also keep in mind, Argentina is absolutely filled. That whole area is filled with all sorts of goodies like lithium, right? And all sorts of stuff's out there. So that would allow the Chinese to open that corridor. And when you open a corridor, it's not just point to point. You get to open the resources that are in between, right? So, I mean, there's reasons for building that corridor, and it's not just to go point to point, like food from Brazil to Chile, or it's a whole economic system when you build a train like that, with basically pretty much guaranteed profitability, or more, or, I mean, close anyway, because of the various things that you can do over time by opening up that corridor. Anyway, I'm talking long time.
No, I was just commenting. You're making me think of other wars in Latin America. I'm thinking of when I took a class in South American history years ago, and I was thinking of the War of the Pacific, and all these other events. I'm thinking of like Pinochet and Ava and Juan Perón and all the other characters. Okay, so you're seeing a conflict that potentially could arise over there. So yeah, that'll be, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Let me look at some of the other.
I think what'll happen is first, this is my guess. It's a guess, obviously. I don't know, but I think what will probably happen, and this is, I would actually, if I were going to bet money as an investor, I would bet in some, however you would put your money for this, that Argentina that will take Falklands from Great Britain, right? After they do that, likely that's when you'll see eventually war with Brazil. First they'll take Malvinas, which is Falklands, right? And then they'll go for Brazil. That's my guess. Let's see if it turns out to be accurate. But it's a guess that I keep repeating because I think, I can sense it coming, but I don't have any evidence whatsoever. With the screwworms, at least I had a half a thimble full of evidence, and that became true. And keep in mind, when Misako and I started talking about screwworms, the sun would yet go around the Earth would yet go around the sun 3 or 4 more times before it became true, right? You know what I mean? Because it was 2021 when we first got on the trail that the screwworms might come back from Panama to the United States, 2021, and published it multiple times, like 100, right? And in between interviews and writing. And then it came true. And that was just tiny bit of information that we had because we know what. The people are here putting they're putting up bookshelves in the library room. I heard a noise. Because they're I got more bookshelves being delivered.
Love it. I want to get a library like you where I have these. I do want to start buying old books. I'm really into the early modern period in so basically pre-1800. So I do want to start acquiring old works, a lot of which you can find on Internet Archive, or you can find PDFs of. Like I was reading a book, I think I shared with you, from the 1580s of some French guy talking about Black Mass and Catherine de Medici.
Is everything good?
Oh,
did something fall? Oh yeah. There, I heard Misako just came in. I heard something fall. I hope. Oh, she's doing great. I'm on with Christian. Okay, good. Oh, okay. Oh, Christian said hello.
Does she want to say hi to the audience or no? No, she's.
Oh, Misako, come in and say hello. Here.
Yeah, it's live.
Yeah, it's live. Come here. It's okay. You're dressed great. Come on, baby. Ay. Come on. Come on. There's my baby.
Hey, how's it going?
She can't hear you because I got.
Oh, yeah. How's it going?
Now.
Congratulations on your baby. Oh.
I think I need to get this one.
Oh, you take that one. Uh-oh, this is difficult. There we go. Take it. You take that one. All right. There we go.
Oh.
Sorry about
there we
that.
go. Awesome. There we go. It's like the scene.
I wanted to use that one so she'd be closer to me.
In the headphones thing, I'm thinking of the scene from, I think it's called Lady and the Tramp, where the dogs are eating the noodle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Masako,
Tale as
congratulations. How
old
are
as
you?
time.
Yeah, or whatever it's called, the other movie. Yeah. Oh, wow. I was watching your interview with Al Johnson. I think you did about a year ago, so that was interesting.
Oh, Masako's interview was great.
Well, we just thought we'd say hi. We hope you're doing well. You and Baby
Yeah.
Bear. Out of the audience has a question
Kuma-chan.
for Masako, but here I'm looking at. Oh yeah, organic. Rebecca says the joy he has with spending with his wife is awesome. Yep, absolutely.
It is.
Kiddo Wellbeing says congratulations. Another one says congratulations, you are amazing. And now you two met during a protest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and a riot. Antifa. I would like to thank Antifa for bringing us together and helping. We were watching those drug addicts do their thing, and and then yeah, go ahead.
Was this in where was this in the U.S.?
Washington D.C. in front of the White House.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
That was the battleground. Yes.
We met in front of the Temple of Doom. I just thought of that.
Oh boy, I haven't been to DC in a while. I've been there twice. That is definitely the eye of the storm. One of the eyes of the storm. That and those other two lovely places. But I don't know if there are any other. Oh, yep. Someone says hi, Masako and Baby Bear. Yep. Yep. Well, awesome. Well, I'm sure you have other things you have going on, so I don't want to hold you up. Let's see. I'm looking at comments here. Oh, someone's asking about, does Michael believe the moon landing? Well, we touched on that earlier. I think he's a skeptic of that.
Oh, one thing I was going to say is you know, one of the things that a lot of photographers have said, oh, thanks, Masago. You're going to go make sure they don't step on antique books on the floor.
I'll see you later. Bye.
We've got a bunch of those old books and that you're talking about, like from the 16 and 1700s in the next room, and they're putting more shelves in. So I had to move some of those precious books on the floor, and they came in while we're anyway. But the moon landing, and some photographers have pointed out, like, where's the stars in the photos? And of course, you know, NASA comes up with their reasoning, and I'm like, actually, where were the stars? I mean, as somebody who shot tremendous amount of star photos, myself and many people watching this will have done it themselves. And you can accidentally catch stars in photos. And the idea that, you know, oh, it's too bright on the moon's surface. Okay. But you just flew all the way to the moon. You're telling me that the guy doesn't have a swivel tripod to just turn it around and shoot into the darkness of space behind you. There's very tiny atmosphere on the moon. You should have been able to at least go into the shadow of the limb of the lunar module or whatever. You should have at least been able to just turn the camera around. I mean, seriously, it'd only take a couple more minutes. But I can tell you one thing. If I were trying to fake a moon, I've never actually thought that it was a fake moon landing. I've never thought that until recent years. I'm like, all things must go back to zero. You must prove all things from scratch. You know what I mean? Because once you see one giant lie and then another one and another one, it naturally would make you suspect, right? And it does make me suspect. Where are the stars? And where and why didn't they just turn the camera around? That's what they did multiple missions to the moon. It wasn't just one. I mean, it would have been simple, right? But however, if you were going to fake a moon landing, I'm not saying that they did, but I'm getting suspicious. But if you were going to, if you took a photo of the stars, that's how somebody could mathematically catch you eventually, I think. Right? Because getting that math right and all that it might be quite difficult to get the mathematics right, because, you know, there's a lot of people on the ground that have a lot of telescopes, and they're very, very good at mathematics. And they're very good with their, you know, being able to measure things, and they might be able to go, that's not right. You know what I mean? Those stars aren't in the right place. Or it would take a lot of, I think if you're going to cover it up, you would be giving them a smoking gun if the stars were If you shot photos and the stars were not in the right places, and how would you get them in the right places? That could be quite difficult, because you're going to have to get it right down to the second. Or there's too many very, very smart people that I think that have the mathematics and celestial skills, let's say, to figure that out. Anyway, I'm just thinking out loud.
I see we're getting more comments. Does Michael believe that man landed on the moon?
I mean, that's what you just asked, right?
Yeah, we're getting, and I'm just sharing with you more comments or questions that we're getting. Oh, you know what?
Oh,
Excuse me.
right, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at an old one here. The text message, it stays in place unless I scroll down. So anyway, pardon that. What was I going to comment on? Some say the moon's not even real, that it's been used to observe humanity, that there's a dark side of the moon. I've heard some people talk about. Anyhow,
The lee side of the moon,
or the dark side of the moon. Yeah. I think that was Jordan Maxwell. I think he was touching on that. I'm looking at some of these other comments. Oh yeah. Some people ask, when is the baby due? Baby bear.
end of September. Yep.
Okay. And
it's funny though how the hospitals, the doctors, they give a date to it. The baby is, and if the baby is late, based on what their hocus pocus says, they're going to want to induce it and do a cesarean, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just insane. They're a bunch of butchers. It's a farming shop, right? If the baby is early, it's like, oh, the baby's early, we got to do a cesarean. The baby's late, we got to do a cesarean, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's completely insane. It's insane. People have to stand up at the individual level to make this stop, right? One midwife told us, we've talked with quite a few midwives here in Japan. We are learning a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things you learn it more when you're going through it yourself, because then you're seeing it in full color, right? And one midwife told us that, the midwifery sort of world in Japan mostly collapsed because people just didn't stand up enough. Japanese didn't stand up enough. But in some other places, she said, like New Zealand, where people went crazy if they didn't, that the Kiwis apparently stood up, and so she said they still have vibrant midwifery in Kiwi land and in New Zealand, and the midwife that was here yesterday, she said that, as I mentioned before, she said Canada is relatively very free compared to Japan, and again, if Canada is considered very free, that's not an endorsement of how locked down it is in Japan. It's very locked down here, actually.
Organic Rebecca asked, would you have a home birth?
I absolutely would.
Oh, you would?
No,
okay.
I would.
Okay.
Before, going into the zoo, the level of mistrust and distrust for the hospitals is severe. It's absolutely severe. I almost never get a checkup in my whole life, except when it was mandatory in the Army. I've had only a couple more why did I even get them? And I don't get checkups. And Misako, and other people have noticed in my life, that I rarely get sick. Misako brings it up sometimes. She's like, you almost never get sick. Like, very, very occasionally, every couple of years or something, I'll get some little sniffle or something, right? And I got one cold during the COVID time, and it wasn't bad. And I said, I don't know why my immune system is so robust, especially when you consider the places I go. And I think maybe it's because of that. I mean, I survived almost a year in India. And if you can survive a year in India, and remember, India was the one place where I was about to go back to India. And that was when I decided in 2019, I better get some vaccines, like an idiot. And let's face it, I was wrong. And but I've been to India, and the only time I got sick in India was one time. I think I was actually poisoned in near the Taj Mahal there, actually. And actually I was anyway. But the point is I just have a very, very strong immune system. I just don't go for checkups. Why? If you want to get sick, you go to the hospital. Nosocomial infections. My mother actually died in the hospital when I was 7 due to a mix-up, due to malpractice, right? And so, I don't have, that was the worst day of my life, and it still is. The worst day of my entire life was when my mother died when I was 7. She was a great mother. And I was just showing Misako some of my old childhood photos that I just brought back from Texas. And you can see how great our life was. You can see us actually on our family boat watching Apollo 11 take off, right? When I was 5. Apollo 11, the first mission to the moon that landed on the moon, allegedly, right? I mean, I was physically present watching the launch. You can see the photos and stuff, right? And there's my mother, and my mother learning how to fly, and I don't even remember learning how to swim, because my brother, my sister, and me, we could all swim before we could walk. I don't remember one day of my life when I could not swim like a fish, right? There's no memory of me. That's why when I thought about going Navy SEAL, or I was trying to weigh between SEALs and Green Berets, I'm like, well, swimming's not the problem. Swimming's not going to be a problem. That's for sure. And I didn't see any problems, actually. You should see some of my photos that I just found from that I.
Yeah.
Oh, that when I was a kid, and that was just that was me when I was 15.
Oh, you're into bodybuilding.
Yeah, I was actually into sports in general, and then I realized that I was 15 years old, right?
Wow.
So then I realized that girls like muscles, right?
Yeah.
And so I was super into sports, and I was super into strength and just being able to fight and do all kinds of stuff, right? So then when I realized how much girls like sports, and then I started doing some bodybuilding too. And I mean, not that girls like muscles. And so then, I had an unfair advantage when I would take my shirt off at the beach, because the girls loved those muscles, but the point I've got a very strong immune system, and I don't even do checkups, and I don't want to go to the hospital. If I get shot or something like that, okay, we'll go to the hospital and take a chance. Because then we're just weighing the odds. But otherwise, unless anything short of that, we're avoiding. They've shattered all trust. It will not come back. There's no way to repair it. It will not be repaired. The only way that they're going to repair it is with other people that have a very low threshold of stupidity. I mean, seriously, if you can then trust the hospitals after what they just did, I mean, you're begging to die. You're begging to die, right? But my mother, when she died when I was 7, there was some malpractice at the hospital. It absolutely changed my life, right? In a very unhappy way there for quite a long time. I still think about her every day. I mean, I had a great mother. And so, when people are like, oh, we're going to give Trump a pass, I'm like, I don't even have time for you, right? You're so weak, weak. And keep in mind, cowards are natural traitors. Cowards will always be a traitor. So you've got to avoid traitors like cowards, like the plague.
Well, what is, I guess, the solution here? I feel like with everything going on in the world, the only time you'll have change is just like human nature, right? It's like the person who, smokes or who drinks heavily. Well, eventually, when they have a major heart situation, something with their body, that's the only time people will take action, right? Is when things get really severe. People aren't in enough pain. People are by and large pretty comfortable with their lives, more or less, in the West, by and large. And so I presume that when we enter this plus or minus 2030, when the economic, political, military, societal, the whole fill in the blank really starts to hit the fan, that's when people will be more inclined to take action. But candidly, I think people have it, even though I think by and large people are struggling and it's getting more expensive to live, that what do you call Overton window, or that pain threshold has not hit a point where people are willing to take action. So I think we're just going to kick in the can down the road for another few years here. Real quick, this is from JYN.
I'll definitely go to the hospital if I get super sick, obviously. And if baby gets super sick, sick. I mean, the thing is though, you have to find doctors that you can trust, and we found some, right? Because there are trustworthy doctors. It's just that you can't just walk in there and expect that you're rolling the dice.
For sure.
That are loaded against you.
Yeah, there's a gentleman I had on my show. What was his name? I had him on over a year ago. He hasn't been sick since he was 19. He's 65, probably 66, 67 years old. And that had me really thinking, about what can I do? So I started incorporating beets into my diet, eating I'll eat raw ginger more or less every day. And then I was eating turmeric for a period of time too, raw. And then just things that I can do to just be and stay healthy. Question from an audience member is, what does Michael think of vaccines in the military other than the COVID vax? Does he think it affected him?
I don't know, because how would I know if I'm a lot less than I could have been?
Yeah.
There's no way for me to objectively know, but I'm going to guess that we all could have been something more than we are if we had been through non-dumbed down education systems I'm just guessing that, but there's no, how can I objectively know?
Sure. Another question. This is from Purcell 2024. I know you may have touched on this earlier. Michael mentioned several times in the past that Ireland was top of the list for the powers that be. Could he elaborate, please? Many things. I think you earlier on kind of touched on that already.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not saying it's top of the list. I'm just saying that they definitely are going for it. They're clearly going for it. And I mean, it's a beautiful place. I mean, and why wouldn't you want to? It's also in a nice strategic location. You know, it's a nice place to control for every reason. And not only that, it's not that hard to get. Think about how hard it is for them to do it. You flood it in with a bunch of people from feral countries and feral places, feral people, and you kill off the Irish, and then you kill off the people doing it. This is simple. This is not abnormal war. This is normal war. You know, and it's a process war. It's an experience, and you can make money along the way, right? So they can make money while they're doing it. It's not like they're investing a bunch of money for, 50 years and finally they get a payday. No, they make money every step of the way. They make you pay for it. They make people that pay taxes are the ones that are going to be paying to be invaded because they don't stand up. They just pay taxes and go, okay, it must be the government. The government's going to do it. There's nothing I can do about it. And so you end up dying. And your children die, right? I mean, let's just get right to that point, right? I like to get right to the bottom. Let's get right to the end state, how this ends up. This ends up with death and family lines being erased and forgotten, and all your family photos are burned and gone and went into the dump, and you're not even a memory. You're just vanished.
Yeah. Now you have some Irish ancestry yourself.
Scots Irish. It's my
Scotch,
culture,
okay, gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Which is a different species.
Yeah. I found out through my brother. So my dad's mother's maiden name, the last name is Carmine. I guess Carmine is Irish. And my brother did genealogical research, and I guess the guy, whoever came over, one of the guys, I mean, I have ancestry from all over, but he was an indentured servant, actually, an indentured servant from Ireland. And very interesting period. You don't hear about indentured servitude very much these days.
Redlegs. I mean, the Irish were big time slaves. I mean, they're the Redlegs in Barbados and all those islands, and they call them Redlegs. And I don't know if you've heard that term before, and I don't mean artillery guys, but
I'm gonna look it up. Redlegs.
They call them Redlegs. You'll see. Look up Irish Redlegs.
Okay.
And you'll see and there's still some down there, actually.
Oh, I see.
So they
that.
were slaves.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to pull it here. Let's see here. Let me. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I mean I mean the Redlegs are something else.
Okay, let me share. Okay, you guys should be able to see it here. That's right. I do remember coming across this. I do remember that there are, yes, white people in. Here's Barbados. Yeah, they're Irish. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I feel like, I've been to Ireland and all, but I am more or less familiar with, just collective European history. But I feel like, the Irish have had it really tough for hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the oligarchs wanted their land, and so they've done so many forms of attack on the Irish, and taking them out. And actually, the Redlegs, from what I've read about them, are considered to be like the lowest class of people in Barbados. I think,
wow,
if that's accurate. Yeah, like basically everybody kind of looks down on them, I mean, a lot of them are. If you look at some of the videos, you can see they're not actually the top of the class. But I'm sure I don't know. There might be others that have lifted themselves up, but they were really smashed. I mean, they were enslaved, hardcore white slaves. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing what they've done with people and moving people around, whether it's penal colonies or sending them to the galleys or sending them to other continents or whatever to purge to have them purge or what have you. But yeah, this is interesting. Wow.
Can you imagine if they sent me out to one of those, sent me off like that somewhere? They come back in like 30 years. I'd be married to some Indian woman. I'd be Apache or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way I would be a slave out there. I'd find the Indians and I'd learn to speak Comanche or something. I'd be riding around on horses, fighting white men.
Crazy stories. What was I going to comment on? Yeah, I don't have any crazy interest in Indian history over here where I'm at. I'm in Central California, and the Spanish weren't out here until really I think the early 1800s. But yeah, it's fascinating. Pivoting here real quick. Let's see. Someone left a comment. Ireland too close for comfort. Special hatred because we look just like them. Ireland too close for comfort. Oh, someone keeps mentioning Josie Wells. I don't know who that is. Why?
Outlaw Josie Wales.
I don't know.
A movie.
Where's the best place to get a copy of Dawes? Where's Dawes Rolls?
Dawes Rolls in my other library room where I can hear them assembling a bookshelf right now. I've got the original Dawes Rolls, but actually you might be able to get an original Dawes Rolls. It's going to be expensive, but you could maybe find it on Abe Books or maybe eBay. Try to find one of the original Dawes Rolls. It's a book, and it's got the 5 civilized tribes in there. In my book, it's got old paper clips that open to each of the tribes. Somebody many years ago put old paper clips in there, so I just left the paper clips. And I would go get it, but I would have to unhook from this and there.
Sure, yeah,
bookshelves. But
no problem.
But the Dawes Rolls. Actually, I've got quite a few of those. I've got quite a few of the Dawes Act and 5 Civilized Tribes. Probably got, I don't know, 20 books on it probably between the Dawes Rolls, maybe more actually. It's a fascinating time because when you look at and you compare that to what happened in places like Israel, it's actually very similar in a lot of ways actually. And it was happening at the same time. But if you look up Dawes Rolls, the actual rolls, right? I found one of those books and I bought it instantly. But do you see one online on Abe Books or
I'm
eBay?
looking right now. I'm looking right now to see. I want to get my check in the mail here. So maybe I'll do some genealogical.
Yeah, man. If you
research.
can prove that you're one of the 5 civilized tribes, you might come up with some bucks.
I don't believe I have any Native American ancestry in me at all. But yeah, I'm just kind of looking at it. Yeah, that is interesting. I had heard you mention that. That is interesting.
Let me see if I see it here.
Yeah.
Where are you looking right now? Because I'll look somewhere else.
Oh, I'm just on Google right now. I just typed in Dawes Rolls.
Oh, okay. How about where to buy Dawes Rolls book? Try that.
Okay, for sale. Here we go.
I got an original. There's probably copies out there too.
Okay.
There has to be copies because that's an important book. Cherokee will be using.
Here we go. Here I'll do the. Here, let me do. Let's go back. Let's go here. Let's go. Oh, what happened here? Oh, no. Let's do Dawes Rolls for sale. Josie Wells movie? No, I'm not from Dave Johnson. I'm not familiar with Josie Wells. Let me look up Josie Wells movie. Let me look it up. The Outlaw Josie Wales. Okay, 1976.
That's
okay, here we go.
Movie. That's like Clint Eastwood, I think.
Gotcha.
Here's actually a copy on Amazon. It's called The Final Rolls of Citizens and Freedmen of the 5 Civilized Tribes in territory. Let's see the Dawes Rolls. Let's see. Let me look on Abe Books.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone else has questions, feel free to to chime in. I wish there was a way for some audience members to hop on, but there isn't. I'm looking at the texts here real quick. Outlaw Josie Wells, yeah. Trying to think of what else I could share with people. Yeah, Outlaw Josie, yeah, Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's 2.5 hours from me. Yep, he used to be the mayor of Carmel, California.
Here's one. Choctaw
Carmel,
blood
yeah.
enrollment. Actually, that's Choctaw is one of the 5 civilized tribes, by the way. Let's see. Here we go. Here, there's some copies of it. How did I get my hands on an original? I've got an original actually, but there's copies here that you can see. Yeah.
Gran Torino.
But
yep, that was a good movie. Little Big Man is a great movie.
Look on eBay. Let's see if you can find it on
see
eBay.
what's on eBay.
Actually,
or Etsy's pretty good too. Etsy's pretty good.
Etsy's. I haven't actually bought any book on Etsy. I think, but I look on there a lot, and I would buy there in a heartbeat. Yeah, everybody buy all the old books you can and take really good care of them. Check, how to take care of them with the humidity and the temperature and stuff, because this is important.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. It would be to get Bibles, because there's a lot of.
I got multiple, man. I got multiple old Bibles. I like old Bibles. I don't like new stuff. I like all the old stuff. I can't even pull it down. I got some amazing Bible. I'm going to be fasting soon, and I'm going to read Bible while I'm fasting. Let's see. Dawes rules. Let's see. I look at the Bible as a survival manual. Here we go. Here's the final rules on eBay. This one's brand new, so these are copies.
Okay, so somebody asked a question. You don't have to answer this now or whenever convenient. They ask, can we get a geopolitical assessment of the chat moved. Geopolitical assessment of the midterm prospects for Armenia's survival amidst Turkey and Azerbaijan?
I think Armenia, Masako and I went to look at Armenia, and the Zionists are going for Armenia, and I mean, they've been selling weapons to the
Azeris.
To the Azeris, yeah, and
are Christian.
and it's the Iranian Muslims who have been protecting the Armenian Christians, against the Zionists and the Muslims that they're supplying, right? So I know everything's more twisted when you look close, right? Everything's not from a distance. From a distance, the Zionists try to make it look like those Muslim Iranians are trying to murder the world. Meanwhile, the Zionists are selling weapons to Azeris to murder Christian Armenians.
So
I think Armenia is in trouble, personally.
They've always been in trouble. My mother's side's Armenian, half Armenian. My mother's half Armenian, and they are an interesting peoples because they have been there's diaspora all over the world, right? Because of the Armenian genocide, and some people do claim that Zionist elements did play some role. I can't substantiate that, but played some role in that. And then obviously that was a precursor for the stuff that happened.
It's easy to substantiate.
Yeah.
They admit it. It's easy. I mean, it's it is real. It is quite real. I mean, they're selling weapons. Keep in mind that trip route, the Trump route for what is it? It's something in peace. What is it? Economic or something. Anyways, they call the trip route, TRIPP. I think Trump International Route for Peace and Prosperity. Is that right? So it goes from Turkey through Armenia, through the Azeri area, through, anyway, you can see where it goes, right? You can see the trip route. It's a trip. And keep in mind, Trump is a Zionist. He's a condom for the Zionists anyway. And they named it after Trump. But, I mean, that's one, they want to clear they don't want the Armenians there. They want the Armenians gone.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting group of people. One of the first Christians. Ladies and gentlemen, any other comments or questions that you'd like to add for Mr. Jan? while we have him here, just looking to see who is messaging here real quick. Oh, okay. I've enjoyed this, so I appreciate you, Michael, making the time. Let me look here. Yeah, it's interesting to just see people from all over. People leaving comments.
Can you tell where they're coming from? I can't see.
As in where they're geographically
Oh, yeah.
located, or
Yeah.
oh yeah. Someone says, I knew somewhere in New York City remembered escaping Jerusalem in the 40s when there were terrorists taking over. Armenian. Oh, okay.
Armenians are very smart. You know, I loved Armenia. I'd like to spend 6 months there. I'd like to go spend 6 months in Armenia, 6 months in Morocco, and I'd love to go
Yeah.
back to Morocco and Armenia. Masako's been to Armenia twice.
Mm.
So then we went together. So on her second trip we went together, but
Mhm.
her sister went, her brother went, they all went to Armenia, and you know, all Japanese. They loved it, and so and Armenians are cool, man. They're really very. I loved it, and they're good at business, but they're under attack.
Yeah.
and yeah, they're very good at business. They're very serious, very smart, serious.
They're
people.
they're
You know,
they're
if you're gonna survive, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
If you're going to survive in a place like that, you're going to have to be. And keep in mind, there are crossroads, and they always have been since. So people that live in these crossroads areas, those are places where the strong do survive. And what the remnant tends to be quite, as a culture, will be educated, will be, you know, business class people. You live on trade routes. Like the most sophisticated parts of Afghanistan, there's a lot of parts that are very, very primitive. Those are the parts that aren't on any trade routes.
Mhm.
The parts that are on trade routes, like Jalalabad, you have no problem finding very educated Afghans there, right?
Mhm.
Because they're people are flowing through. They're doing business with many different cultures. It's like ants touching antenna, you know, exchanging information, and it happens over a period of, you know, centuries, you know.
Absolutely. Well, if there wasn't anything else from anybody, or if Michael wanted to opine, oh yeah, I guess I'll ask you a question here real quick. I'm seeing Mike Adams post stuff pertaining to shedding, as it relates to this vaccine, and he was mentioning about people needing to consume some substance. I don't know what it was. Do you have any comments on that or thoughts? What's your take on mRNA jab shedding stuff I'm hearing about in post?
I've seen Mike Adams because I follow his Twitter, and I've seen him talking about shedding, and I know Miss Dr. Murakami, who's a good friend of Misako and mine here in Japan. He was talking about shedding in relation to previous jab, and we need to ask him what he thinks about this one. But shedding seems to be quite real, and you know, Mike Adams tends to be pretty accurate. If you look at his hit to miss, is pretty good. I mean, he misses some things, of course, but I wouldn't follow him if he wasn't mostly accurate. You know what I mean? So I'm very interested. I need to call Mike and see what he's. Or I don't want to bother him because the guy's as busy as you and me. But
Sure.
but the idea of what to take, I have no idea. I have no idea. No idea at all. You know what I am going to do soon is do a fast though. But Masako can't do that. She's got baby coming.
How long are
And
you
what-
gonna fast
what-
for?
You know, my last fast was a little bit over 40 days. It was 40 days and some change.
No way.
Yeah.
40
Yeah, I
days?
did yeah, zero food. People are like, what kind of vitamins did you take? I'm like, absolutely zero. No orange juice, no nothing. Yeah, and it's just I fasted. And watch, I'll fast this time. This
40
time I'm gonna
days.
get. Yeah, this time I'm gonna get like a mason jar. This time I'm gonna get like a mason jar, and I'm gonna I'm gonna mix different salts in it from Okinawa because I'm just shotgunning that. I don't know. I don't know, but I am gonna take salt, and it's just gonna be the whole fast will be. I don't know how long I'm gonna go. It might just be like 3 days. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, but you know, because but I've done many fasts that are over 10 days, and it's like that's easy. That's child's play. But that's like missing lunch for me. Going 10 days with no food is like okay, whatever. But but what I'm getting to is this next fast. It'll just be water, and I'm gonna get it like a mason jar that I put salt in, and I'll just mix some salt with that water, and that's it. There won't be any vitamins, no juice, no no tea, no broth, no. When I say zero, it'll be salt and water and nothing else. No pills, no crap. I don't take any pills. I don't take any vitamins or any of that crap, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then real quick here, somebody, gosh, someone left a super, here we go. Okay. Let me check here real quick. Sorry I didn't mean to ignore, I'm trying to click on this. I can't. Last username 794. So yeah, thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you. Could Michael give us some of his thoughts and opinions of American versus foreign women for dating and marriage?
I'm sorry. What was that? I was reading this other comment here, and then
yeah.
let me answer this one, and then the one you said.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Where it says, "Thanks you guys for reading our weird questions." Haha. We love you, Mike and Masako, and Newport Beach. Mr. White, much respect for Japan. Not a feel sorry for me. That's important. Japan's not a feel sorry for me culture, and I've brought that up many times. Like, despite horrific things and actually the malignment that's happened to them as if they were some kind of evil people, but they still don't play victim. And professional victims are predators. I've never seen an exception to that, either on the personal level or a cultural level. Mm-hmm. And Japanese just don't play professional victim. There are very few, but that's such a small number. I don't really run into them. You'd have to go hunting them up to find one that plays victim. They just don't do it.
Yeah. And then the question from the audience member, if Michael could give some of his thoughts and opinions on American versus foreign women for dating and marriage.
That depends on a lot of things. I'm American. I always loved American women. I thought I was going to marry American women, and I didn't. So, because I was overseas, but there are a lot of incredible women around the world, by the way, who are having a hard time who want to get married. And I say finding a man. Some of the women's lib people will go, "Oh, what do you mean finding a man?" It's like, okay, you're out. You're not even being considered. You know what I mean? It's like, because, when there are men that want to find the right woman and there are women that want to find the right man, period. Right. And there's a lot of women in Asia who can't find the right man because the women often are very highly educated. And a lot of them want a man that's quite manly, actually. And so they're having the same problems that women in America are having. A lot of the men are more like girlfriends now, and they don't like that. Genetically, they don't like that. They may like that socially for a while because it's the fashion, but when that fashion goes out of fashion, that, hey, I married my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Internally, they're not going to like that. Their being is not going to like that. Their being needs something that will fight for and protect Baby Bear, right? And Masako, and I tell you what, our relationship is incredibly good. And we are in basically traditional roles. I'm expected to, and something like the water filter had a problem yesterday. Okay, that's my job, right? I stopped what I was doing and fix it, right? It's minor, but that's my job. But when it comes to, man, Masako can make unbelievable meals. It's just like 5-star. It's unbelievable. It's like a Michelin. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like an artwork. You have to, like, we had the midwife yesterday, and Masako served us lunch, but it was more like, seriously, it would be like $1,000 meal at some restaurant. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just what Masako just does naturally. She just walks by food and it gets into order. Yeah, but we do traditional roles, but at the same time, I've taken Masako. We met in a riot in front of the White House, and before I took her to the Darien, I did a fast with her, because I wanted to make sure. And actually, before I met with her, it took months to check her out, because there's a lot of people that want to meet, and I'm very hesitant, especially with women that wanted to meet, right? And so I checked her out, and I was like, oh, she's and not that she wanted to meet for romance stuff, but people send spies and all that stuff, right? And so I checked her out. And I'm like, she's good to go. So I met with her. I agreed, and we met at that riot. But over time, I'm like, wow, she's pretty serious. Actually, she's very serious. Like at one point, we were in Washington, and a couple of people got stabbed in front of us, and it was one of the riots, I guess, and Antifa stabbed a couple of people. And Misako was just cool as Christmas. I'm like, good. That's what, no crying, no screaming, no grabbing hold of me. She was very cool. So then I was like, oh, I'll take her to the jungle, Darien, places like that. So, but first I wanted to make sure. So we did a 4-day fast, right? And I was just watching her closely. I didn't say this is what we were doing, but we did a 4-day fast, and her emotions were very steady. Because when people get hungry, if they have emotional problems, it's going to pop out, right? And she was steady as can be. So the next thing you know, we're running around the jungle together and taking her all over the place. I mean, I had her in the red house up in Oregon, where the Antifa had taken over that house. We walked in there. There's people, baseball bats and stuff. I've taken her out into all kinds of, we won't be doing stuff like that now because we got Baby Bear on the way. So we're going to reduce the risk threshold substantially. But I mean, so we did I took her to about 30 countries, teaching her about routes, resources, ideology, that sort of thing. I mean, I took her right to PhD level courses for, our minds, when you put them together, are much more powerful than mine or hers is. We're a very good blend. And so if you can find somebody like that, and you can, when you find somebody like that, if you're looking, it's magic. You know what I mean? It's like, it's much better than being single. Like, if you marry the right person, it's 10 times better than being single. And now we got a baby on the way. It's like the most exciting thing ever. I mean, it's like unbelievable. I mean, that's all I think about. I wake up in the morning, I sing to Masako. Actually, I wake up singing. She's like, you're the only person in the world that can go from 0 to wide awake in like 5 seconds. I'm like, because she knows, I can just wake up and be wide awake and start singing a song for her that I just make up out of the blue.
Is it in Japanese or you
in English?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
You play an instrument?
Actually, weirdly, no, but I wish I did.
Okay.
And I don't know how to sing, but see, the thing is, but I like to sing. And it's funny, when I was in Philippines, and the Filipinos are like, actually the U.S. Commander of U.S. forces in Philippines, his name was Bill Coltrip. He said, if you're going to do anything here, you're going to have to do karaoke. And I'm like, oh, not karaoke. I don't want to do any karaoke. And next thing you know, I'm out with the Filipinos, and they're doing karaoke. Because Filipinos, man, they love karaoke. They're getting gunfights over it, and they can sing, man. Filipinos are serious. And then I started getting into it. Next thing you know, it's like, actually, I like karaoke. But anyway, no, I can't. I don't play any instruments. But Baby Bear, right off the bat, because music and math are basically the same thing. Music is basically, acoustic mathematics, or I don't know what's the proper way of. These things are all the same.
100%. Well, you're making me think of the mystery schools and sacred geometry and Fibonacci and all the Kabbalah and all the esoteric stuff that most people don't even know about.
These candles right here, they actually resonate when we had that candle painted actually with Bitcoin, because I'm gonna burn it when Bitcoin burns down. I know all the Bitcoin bros are going crazy now, but these candles, this is made out of a tree in Japan, but when it burns, it actually it uses that frequency. It's that same starlight frequency flickering, right? Anyway,
wow.
But when you're talking about geometry and all this, that's so vital. That's like a first part of education that the Greeks would do. What you're talking about, and that's like basic for children.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating the whole mystery schools, the esoteric. I mean, people tend to attribute it to something negative or what have you. But I think it's pretty fascinating and how much it's influenced the current monotheistic religions. A lot of these elements. Some people like him or otherwise. I have that Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages, Britain. I think it was published in the 1925. That's a really interesting kind of foray intro into this world of the secret societies. And I think the cabal, they know about I say it for the lack of a better term, whatever, the powers that be. I think they know more about how this universe works, and they only give people a tiny fraction, the chattel, the slave, so to speak. And also on a very tangential note, I'm sure you have found, I always find it amusing I don't really encounter people like this because I'm kind of sequestered these days, but people that are high on their horse, people that think that their shit doesn't stink. And I find it amusing because they have no clue how many layers there are in this world. You know, it's kind of like funny. It's like as you get out in the world, you meet and you run into people who are successful, or they're doing this or that, and you realize a lot of these people don't have their shit together, or there's something off in a different area, part of their life, and they don't really understand where they are in the social strata of the power structure in the world. I was just sharing with my folks the other day about somebody from years ago, but I'm digressing. Yeah, I just want to encourage people to get this book again. Yeah. This is a really damn good book. I was going to say I was going to send a shipment to everybody.
It's called Satanist what?
You know, it's called the International Satanic Network Exposed. It's by Makia Freeman. He is a guest I've had on my show many times. This is just a really, really good primer. And I bought this just to support his work. He's not asked me to share this. I'm sharing this because I was just picked it up. It's a really, really good book. Leo Zagami also has some really good books. I picked up. I'm looking at my bookshelf. I have the lighting in my way right now, so I can't really see it. And then, just Imagination Podcast, folks. I encourage people to watch that. Listen to J.R. Sweet, Max Lowen. Who else? Recent shit. I should pull up here. I'll drop it in the chats. I mean, there's just so much. I'm telling you, there's way more insights in this than any of these sons of bitches who talk about the geopolitical world and all this other stuff. All these other people that I listen to, I just don't take these other people seriously anymore. Here, I'm gonna share it here real quick.
Somebody asked if oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
If we know if we're having a boy or a girl, we're not going to get the echogram, as they call it here, or they call it echogram here, ultrasound, to find out. I mean, we're not trying to keep ourselves surprised. I would like to know if I could, but we're not. It's not worth getting an ultrasound for.
I'm looking at some of the other comments here. Let's see. You do YouTube karaoke? What in the world? I ordered a bottle of that through the redacted channel, and it comes. I'll just keep my mouth shut. If you're not talking about these other channels. Okay, I think that's about it. Was there anything else anyone wanted to mention? This is kind of a cool virtual conversation live with everybody. Last hurrah. Let me pull up the live chat here.
Oh, I see the links you put up, Christian. Let's see.
Yeah.
But I don't want to open them because then I would be leaving this channel.
Yeah. Oh, no, it'll open up in another screen for you. So you won't lose. You shouldn't lose us. Yeah, that's a really good. I encourage people to just listen to some of the stuff that I espouse or others sounds cuckoo. Just spend a little bit of time on your walk or your run. Just listen to it. Listen to whistleblowers, and the truth will set you free. It
doesn't sound cuckoo at all. Which components will be accurate or inaccurate or will be unknown, but as a general, I mean, these secret architectures definitely exist. They definitely exist, and a lot of them, at least some large number of those, are definitely like of satanic order. I mean, just completely evil by our standards, by any civilized standards. Look what they're doing at the hospital when they take the baby's umbilical cord. They're stealing from the mother and the baby. They're literally stealing through subversion and just lying to people. Oh, you don't need this. Like in one of the hospitals on June 2nd, at the hospital, they said, no, there's no proof that the baby or the mother benefit by keeping, the baby benefits by keeping the umbilical cord attached while it pumps the blood. And I'm like, what kind of kooky people are these? You know what I mean? They're like monkeys. You know what I mean? They're like, seriously, they're like, You think you're smarter than Mother Nature? You think you're smarter than God? I mean, seriously, think that they're smarter than if the umbilical cord's still pumping blood. It's still, that's like a third of the baby's blood. You think Mother Nature created that for as trash? You know what I mean? No, that's part of it. It's the baby's needs that.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. That's why worst comes to worst. I mean, you have to have the baby wherever you can. You can't have those animals doing this to your baby. And so many people are one of the midwives, two of them. We talked about it with one yesterday and another one a few days ago. They both said similar that so many women are taking so much painkiller while they're getting birth. Like the midwife a few days ago told us that one woman, she was delivering or watching her deliver a baby, and she was in the hospital. She was still working in the hospital during those times, and the mother was reading a magazine. And then the one yesterday, she told us that sometimes, I mean, in a Japanese hospital, they'll offer the mother, she can watch the DVD of her choice on the screen while she's having a baby. You can just watch a movie while you're having a baby. But she said literally they don't even, they're so, and the baby comes out kind of, because, it's the baby's bloodstream too. Whatever you put in your body, it's going right to that baby's brain. The baby's coming out, lethargic, and that's a crime. You know what I mean? And the mothers don't know. They don't know. We've been trained to follow the white lab coat. White lab coat spaketh. White lab coat fooled orange fungus, know? And that's what it really comes down to. If we call it like that, white lab coat, fooled condom, because that's what it really comes down to. Because that's all this is. So many people are so focused on, Fauci should go to prison. Yeah, he should. But he's also just a distraction from the main body.
100%. The real criminals, they're all on TV. They're the musicians. They're aware of what's going on. That's what when I go visit family, when I tell people this, I try and really hammer it home, and they probably get annoyed. I tell them that Fauci, Andrew, they're all lower to middle management at best. The real criminals, they're still at large. They're families that people have no clue that even exist. People talk about Elon Musk being the wealthiest man. He's definitely not the wealthiest man. Wealthiest families, old names. That money's been kept and moved around to different countries. People, I look at people are basically feudal slaves on a conveyor belt. They're basically harvested. You pay a third of your revenue to the government, who are literally legitimately criminals. Like legit criminals. And people just go along with you're just kind of, you're part of the system. You want to keep your pension, which I don't think the pension is going to be around, especially those here in the States. Who knows how long that lasts? That's tied to the bond market and all that stuff. I mean, you have a failed treasury auction some of the stocks. I mean, I'm not like an expert on that domain, but yeah, I have no trust in any of these people. So sounds like you got to do what the Romans did to Carthage. It has to be razed to the ground, and they got to assault the earth.
I mean,
does that sound bad to say live?
I mean, that's what's unfolding, though. I mean, they're doing it. They are doing it. I mean, the Zionists are destroying the United States and other places. Yeah. And, it's interesting, though. It becomes confusing for some people to go, why would somebody do that? They'll hurt themselves, too. That doesn't stop people from doing stuff, or groups. That as like, why would people do crack? When it hurts themselves too. It costs them money, and they end up living under a bridge. There's. I've taken Masako through places like Skid Row and all kinds of places many times. Actually, I've spent a lot of time. We'll look at places like that and just watch the goings on, because you can learn by just looking at that stuff. Just go and sit there and look, right, in a safe place if you can, and. When you talk with some of these people out there on these drug addicts, some of the people seem very intelligent. Like somehow, I mean, sometimes I wonder who here is actually was a billionaire not long ago or something. I mean, it happens. It literally happens. Look at Joe Biden's son, the druggie, right? I mean, not that he was a billionaire, maybe he was, I don't know. But I mean, his brain is gone. He fried it, right? And a lot of people like that, it's all part of this larger architecture of war that we have to be cognizant of. Like I see some people saying, do I have any love for dope heads or whatever? It's like, keep in mind the people that are smoking dope now and saying it's cool or whatever, and it's for medicinal purposes. You've been successfully shot by the enemy. You've actually been shot. You're shot. And because you're dumbing yourself down. You just are. You might be smarter than the average people around you, but you're not as smart as you would be. You're not as capable as you would be. I guarantee you one thing: if you're a F-16 pilot and you show up with a joint in your hand, that's it. You're not an F-16 pilot anymore, because they know you'll wreck your jet. You know what I mean? They know your judgment's impaired, right?
For sure. I was gonna mention too, as it relates to that, and then we got a question from Monica. I think I'm getting your name right. Who asked? Well, I'll just ask her a question. Well, let me just, to make it pertinent to what you just said last. This is here. Let me share. Sure. Are you good on time? How are you, by the way? I want to be mindful of.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just checking here. I'm enjoying it. Let's see. Share. Make sure I share the right screen. Okay. Let's see. Share. Okay. So this is pertaining to what we were touching on. I think everybody can see this. This is from Svali's book. For those tuning in who are not familiar with her, she's an ex. I don't like you saying the word Illuminati because I feel like it's lost its luster, but I'll use that term for lack of a better word. But you can look her up. She's done interviews, and she talks about what people behind the scenes avoid certain things, but they will foist it upon others. So the question is, some researchers claim that various items that people are commonly exposed to in society are part of the means to weaken their enemies. Therefore, I wonder if the Illuminati allow their own leading members to be exposed to these, i.e. the following: chlorine and fluoride in water and foods, vaccines, medical drugs, junk food, microwave food, dietary supplements, biochips, mercury fillings, HARP, chemtrails. And then she replied, in general, true leadership is protected from much of the above. They are ordered to not drink or do drugs. I'm thinking of Mormons. Anything harmful to themselves. They don't go as far as junk food or microwave food, since they don't worry about that. But at meetings, healthy foods such as granola or trail mix, blah, 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 are encouraged. This is very interesting. This is very deep. You don't hear a lot about her. Again, I don't hear these people on these big popular shows on Rumble, the people that people fawn over. I'm trying my best not to name names. Here, someone told me to zoom in here. Okay, here, let me zoom in. Here, I'll just share the link in the description here. I'm trying to make the most of while we're all together here. Let me drop it here. Okay, and anyhow, I don't know if you had any comments on that. And then the other comment from Monica, it looks like, was, I'm trying to find your comment because it's hidden up here in the chat. Where is it at? She asked, what's your thoughts on the author of The Great Taking? So David Rogers Webb. I don't know if you've met him. Or...
Oh, he messaged yesterday, actually.
Okay.
And I Masako and I spent good time with him up in Sweden. He's super smart. I would listen to him. I think it's very wise. He puts a lot of thought. Some of the things I disagree with him on, but the thing is, and Christian, you're not beating around the bush on this. You've said it explicitly, but in different ways.
Yeah. As
time goes on, we kind of enter different levels of understanding. Obviously, that's part of. But in some of us move as you get older, you're increasingly going through those levels faster because you're seeing more things that you're incorporating into your memories. But what I'm getting to is David Webb. I remember he said that all wars are bankers' wars, and I said that was one thing I didn't quite agree with, because I see a lot of wars that in history and just out that happen in places where there are no banks, right? So that just doesn't fit. The banks are are something that has emerged over time, and they're used in wars, just like ships and tanks. But all wars are not ship wars. All wars are not rifle wars or machine gun wars, but banks are huge weapon systems in wars. There's no question about that. But I mean, that's a minor point. But David is super smart. I would listen to him. Yeah, I would
Mhm.
definitely listen to him. I do listen to him, actually. Yeah.
Mhm. Noted. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just looking at, excuse me, comments here. Oh yeah, somebody left. The evil chateau is the Chateau Emerald. Yes, in Belgium. Yes, that's great. That's a creepy here. We'll just. I assume you're good here on time. We need to look that up here, real quick. I just want to share that with the audience
Yeah.
here. You know what? I was thinking as I was reading this book the other night, I was just kind of thinking to myself, like, here I'm over in California here, but somewhere, I wonder what are these other world leaders doing right now as I speak right now in the evening. I'm thinking to myself, like, what are they doing right now? What are these people, the cabal? You have people in cages, you have people being bred, you have people engineering things. Like, what are they doing right now? What would it be like to be a fly on the wall in their chateau or their home or whatever? Just kind of just thinking, everyone's so focused on their own little world. Sometimes I think about that.
If you could spend one evening with them, you could know a lot, actually. Just one evening. Yeah.
This is supposed to be where some of the most fill in the blank demonic stuff has occurred, by the way. This chateau.
It looks like Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah, it does look like Harry, but this is supposed to be very, very demonic place in Belgium. I hear a lot of stuff about Belgium, very dark. This is it. They do hunting parties here.
Hunting people?
Hunting parties, yeah. Yeah. Yep. They do yep. All presidents, prime ministers, celebrities. This is the place. I was just looking it up the other day on like Google Maps. I was just kind of looking at it. I'm only, I don't know, 5,000 or 3,000 miles away from it. Yeah, look at it. Yep. That's where they conduct a lot of these rituals. Yep. Different from the house. Anyhow, I know I'm just going off on a tangent here. Yep. Okay.
Somebody says, in case of famine, the Rothschilds taste like chicken. Gary the cannibal, who's a cannibal from Texas. I tracked him down in India. The Rockefeller guy that got eaten or allegedly got eaten in Papua New Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gary was the funniest cannibal I ever interviewed. And I interviewed quite a few cannibals, this member of this Agori cult. And he said, "That's Egg Rockefeller, Michael."
Mm.
So anyway, they actually call people long pig. That's a cannibal slang for people because people taste like pork.
Yeah.
So they call them long pig.
Someone mentioned Kuru. Is that how you say it? Is it Ku?
Kuru.
Kuru. Yeah.
Kuru. I read 3 books on it, and I studied Kuru because I was looking for clusters of Kuru and Kreuzfeld Jakob in India, because I thought if I could find clusters of it, I could find where these people are at. I talked with Indian doctors, and at that time they were like, we don't really have such a detailed CDC as Americans have, but maybe by now India does. But I tracked down quite a lot of those cannibals. I talked with a lot of them, and at one point I was saying, Gary, you're going to get Kuru. And you know what Kuru is, Gary? He's like, yes, I know what it is. Stop saying that. You're making me nervous. I'm like, well, stop eating people. Dancing disease, they call it. That's one of the language. Actually, one Japanese intelligence guy that I interviewed sitting right here, actually. Look at that. That's that lady, that actor, right? What's up with her? Is this real?
That's I mean, my channel's still pretty small, but whatever. It's Ellen DeGeneres. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just typed in Kuru on X.
And she popped up. Oh. But anyway, so what's up with the Bannon thing?
Oh, they just said, this has just popped up when I typed in Kuru. It said multiple victims have testified that C-Bannon is a sex cannibal who consumed jerky.
I wonder if
with
it's...
Yeah.
I mean, these are probably AI photos or whatever, but but who knows? I don't even know. But the point is the one guy that I had sitting here, and I interviewed him right here, and it's very interesting. He's a Japanese intel guy, but he used to live in Papua New Guinea doing work over there, right? Mm-hmm. And he talked about he said that in Papua New Guinea, they were actually talking about the difference between how Asians taste and how Westerners taste. And they said that the Asians taste better. They're more sweet or something like that. Anyway, he said it was in the newspapers over there. They were actually discussing it in the newspapers. And I looked it up while he was sitting there. And they do. They you can look up online. Like you can find English language newspaper and PNG, and they're talking about Papua New Guinea, talking about the difference between taste and Asians and Westerners. Luckily, they prefer Asians more.
Well,
But that didn't save Rockefeller if that's what happened to him.
Yeah, they're not plagued by the same diet as Western society. I was looking it up here real quick. I was going to pull it up. I was pulling up PNG between Asian viral minimalistic graphic. Oh, that's something else here. And someone says, if you look up heme, it is impossible. It is impossible. Heme is blood, and you have no idea whose blood it is. Asians taste like teriyaki. Okay. Mad cow pathogen is called. I think most of them aren't. Yeah, I think most of them are not human. I agree. Have you listened to Sean Atwood or no?
It doesn't ring.
Are you familiar? Here, let me share. Let me share who that is. He brings on a lot of guests. Yeah.
Yeah, the prions are. It says mad cow pathogen is called a prion. Yeah, those prions are interesting. But I don't know. I mean, I've read about them. I've read several books on them, but I don't know what's real and what's not. Oh, Masako's sending photos of our new baby niece. Yes, not our baby, but our niece was just born yesterday too. We are incredibly psyched.
Well, we can wrap it up here. I guess everybody's gotten their question answered. I guess more or less. It is 105 here outside. I don't know how it is over where you are, but it's been like this almost every day.
105 degrees?
105 degrees Fahrenheit, yep.
Out here, it's like edge of typhoon, I think. I'd have to look up and see where the typhoon is, but there's a lot of clouds out there today, so.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a walk with Masako, actually. We got to keep Masako. We're going to go do walking and do some squats because she's going to have a baby soon.
Yeah, it's right around the corner here. Well, Michael, how can people learn more about you as well as get in touch?
I'm on Substack, and sooner or later, when all this is done and baby's a little older, I might go cannibal hunting in India again. So maybe we'll take some lucky person cannibal hunting.
I like it. What would you carry on you? You carry a knife?
Actually, when I cannibal hunted before, which was a lot, I got huge amounts of photos and videos, and I mean a lot. And it was more of your wits, actually. At one point, I was with some cannibals on the Ganges River in India, in Varanasi, Benares. You know, it was midnight, and it was a full moon. The moon was right overhead, and I was like, at some point, I'm like, why am I with these guys alone by a fire on midnight by the Ganges on a full moon? And their behavior changed. You know what I mean? I know I was there. I was researching, but their behavior changed, and I acted like I was going to go take a leak, and I ran off into the darkness. What I'm getting to is it just didn't feel right, and I left. And you know, and I got through all that, and I spent a lot of time out with people like that. But anytime I got that feeling, I'm out or I take action. But one guy named Justin Alexander Shelter, I've got his book in the other library room, or maybe it's right here. But he went to India, and some of his friends and family members, they reached out to me. They were looking for him. He went missing, and they knew I had hunted people down in India and found him, so they were asking for my help. But so I read his diary several times, and at some point I'm like, he wrote in his diary that he had a slight feeling about the Indian guy that he was with. And I was like, oh, that guy's going to kill you. I mean, you could see it. He wrote it down. And he didn't say that he thought the guy might kill him, but you could sense. And I knew the kind of person he was with because it was called a Naga. And it was a Naga was the first type of people that got me hunting cannibals. And sure enough, Justin disappeared. And the guy, so I read that diary multiple times, and I said, go get this guy right here that he was with. And they did, right? And they did. It's all in the Indian. What I'm telling you is that there's a book about it called Lost in Shangri-La. And you can see my name is in that book. It's called Lost in Shangri-La. And it's when Justin Alexander, it's a bestseller, when Justin went missing in India, and they asked me for advice. That's why my name's in the book. But but when they arrested the guy that I told them to go get, he ends up in jail and then mysteriously hangs himself, right? So then he's dead. So that's all over the Indian news. So what I'm telling you is all over Indian news in English language, actually, because a lot of their writing is in English. But what I'm getting to is, what did I do that was different than Justin? I listened to my instinct very closely. And I could see Justin wrote it in his diary. There was a little bit of, I'm like, don't do it, Justin. That little voice just said, knock, knock. And when the danger thing knocks on my man, I'm tuned up on danger. You know, as Masako has noticed, I'm the most safety conscious person she's ever met. And I'm constantly like, you know, everything's got to be seated right in the right car. Oh, there's a bag in the back seat. I'm putting the seatbelt on it. You know what I mean? If it'll fit in the trunk, it's going in the trunk. You know, everything, safety, safety, safety. And because, you know, I do a lot of dangerous stuff. So what weapons? It's your mind and listening to your intuition and doing homework in advance. And if your intuition says it's off, don't do it unless you really are in a situation where I got to do one of these things, you know, then you're going to use your intuition and do it. But listen to your intuition. That's your number one weapon. Oh, and somebody asked, Tiger, how's your 1800s clothes outfit for baby? They haven't arrived yet, but they're on the way. I was tracking the shipping the other day. I bought some clothes from the 1800s.
Really?
From linen and cotton.
Really?
Too. And because I just thought, yeah.
Well, I didn't know you could still get clothing from the 1800s.
Yeah, you just have to, you know, shop around. You can find, but and somebody says, Mark, it's called intuition. Yeah, and intuition is your best advisor, and you can always carry it with you because you always do, and you can train it just like you can train a muscle. You can train your intuition, work it out, listen to it, critique it when it's wrong. You can do it quietly, obviously, because you're going to get stuff wrong, and but you'll get better and better and better at your intuition. And when your intuition is getting really good, then you should be able to make more accurate decisions more quickly with less information. Because what ideally what we want is to be able to make accurate assessments with as little information and as little time as possible. We want to be able to go snap, snap. We need to, you know, don't go that way. I don't like the way that guy looks. Okay, I'm out. I'm going a different way, right?
100%. Yeah, I've learned over time to just go with the gut instinct. Your gut is usually right. Your gut is usually right. Yep. As someone said, Peter Parker, spidey senses. That is absolutely right.
That's right.
Well, this has been really fun. I don't know. Do you do chats like this? Would you say on other shows? Is it more structured or less engaging with the audience?
I don't think I've ever gone this long, and it's pretty uncommon. I don't think I've ever gone this long. If I have, it would be so rare. But I've enjoyed it so much. I wish other people could be on. Actually, I wish they could.
Anyway, you know, I was just saying that. I said I wish some of the members of the audience, I could have them pop up or patch in some other guests. Maybe we'll do some collaborative ones here if you want, with Max Lowen. I think you should, and
let's do
some of these other people.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but yeah.
All right, brother.
Alrighty.
Y'all, everybody, bye wherever you're at in the world.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching.